How's breakfast?
Good. Had a fun breakfast, so.
Thanks for joining. Last minute thing.
Do I got you or did you freeze? Oh,
No, I'm good. I'm good.
all right.
We're good. What's up for today?
Well, let's take a few minutes and I'll do what I can do and then. It's kind of glitching, so I hope it works for you.
Can you hear me, Juan?
Well, I can hear you. I'm just telling you that it's glitching a little bit, so I don't know.
Well, it's StreamYard. I still have the StreamYard link going, So
Okay.
it's not. I know it's not your favorite, but anyways, we just been talking about the events coming up in Plymouth. I don't know if you want to talk about that for a few minutes. What up?
Well, I'm excited to be out there. I want to come out. It sounds to me like you got some pretty fun stuff going with the plans for things to do. I have a really tight schedule, so I'm having to kind of incorporate this into that. But I'm looking forward to it. So, and all of the events we've done out there in Plymouth, I don't think we've ever had one that wasn't just very unique, fun, different. Every year has been a little different. So.
Well, Juan, as we were sharing before, when I spoke to Jerry, Juan, Jerry was the one that gave us the thought of, 1776 wouldn't have happened without 1620, and that we're all representative, of what the Pilgrims did when they came here to advance the kingdom of God. So you look at America, Juan, without that godly relationship, it's whatever lane people are in. So, we have a small group, but a group of people that, believe in the Lord and, pray for the country and like that. And, remember a couple years ago when we signed the Mayflower Compact, there was 41 of the original Pilgrims that signed the compact, and there was a lot more than 41 of us there, and only 41 signed it. I just thought that one was just so incredible. It was a God nod, sharing that the Lord's with us.
Well, the one thing, as I said, even then, in the original compact, which we don't have the original copy, we have what people wrote was close to the copy. The original was lost somewhere in the Civil War. But we know from the writings of the various people that they envisioned a country building out. They envisioned cities with roads connecting, farms being established. They envisioned a lawful land with people representing the people, law enforcement, everything. They envisioned a country. And I think that their depth of vision is actually pretty incredible. They saw things that weren't as though they were.
Yes.
Very godly perspective. And they prayed that the people that this establishment that they were building would be a launching point to bring the gospel, not only to the natives in the land, but to the world.
Yeah.
So they envisioned in their original covenant with God that they were going to build a nation that would be literally missionaries to the world. And you have to picture, they left a land where they were serfs. They couldn't own the land. The royals owned all the land.
Yeah.
They couldn't own their labor fully. The taxes were very, very high, relatively. And so they wanted to go someplace where they can enjoy the fruits of their labor, in a scriptural sense, to own the fruits of their labors. Yes. And they couldn't get there. So That's the routine. Today, if they were to see what the country has become 400 years later, they might be quite shocked that it has become what they envisioned, but and more, the modernness, the aircraft, the cars, the factories. But they did envision that. And, the question I asked, if they were able to look down from above and see what the country has become, would they have felt that that it has fulfilled their expectations? And I think they would say that it did. But there's also stuff where it's gone awry from the original covenant and promises with God. So then I said, imagine coming back 400 years from now. What would the kids on the hoverboards and the flying cars and, everything see if they looked at us right now today when we were there present?
Well, they'd be passing
What
around
would have
the
happened
calls,
between now
around the calls
and
coin.
400 years from now? Imagine what that would look like. Cities on the edge of space, people transiting back and forth to not just Mars, but out beyond, mining the asteroid belt, cities on the moon and things like that. I don't think that's that far off. A very Star Trek type future. Would they still feel well served that that generation 400 years from now had retained the connection to these original covenants that these pilgrims put in place? And that's our job in between, is to refresh that pilgrim spirit and keep it fresh and on point, because as much as the world changes, God isn't changing. The covenants are still relevant, whether we understand it or not. So does that make sense, Jerry?
Yeah, but Juan, even you had us all watch you recommended The Great Awakening, right? And The Great Awakening movie opens with Ben Franklin, right, with all the people in Congress and stuff. And Ben was older now. And it was a point in time in the history, right? That was around 1770, I think, when it opened the movie. But when you looked at when the pilgrims came here, Juan, there was a hunger for God. They were, the Lord was part of their life. And then it's almost like when things got good in America over the first 100 years, people forgot about the Lord. It wasn't important anymore. And then it wasn't until.
I apologize, Jerry. I'm not getting any of your conversation because of this breaking up. So I apologize.
You can't hear. Okay. Well, anyways, I was just saying that with the George Whitefield stuff, George Whitefield brought America back, and Ben Franklin said that in The Great Awakening. I just think, Juan, that there's a time for us to. It's bringing back the fire for the gospel, Juan. And there's not a fire for the gospel, right? You know that. There's not much of a fire for the gospel the way it used to be. So if you can't hear me, maybe you can just continue. I was just saying that, I think America needs to put the Lord first in their life and do it the way the pilgrims did at the beginning. That's just the way I see it. So anyways, I think that, why don't you speak? So if you can't hear me, you can just share. You talk.
Well, I apologize. You're not coming through. The only thing I heard was fire for the gospel. Let me just say this: it's spotty. There's places where there is tremendous fire for the gospel. It just isn't. It's I'm not going to criticize those that do have a fire for the gospel. There's a lot of places that do. It needs to be more. So we endeavor to spread that. It's what it is.
Well,
And by the way, if you're going to have a fire for the gospel, what was the thing about the time with the apostles and Christ like that? Well, with signs following, signs and wonders, miracles. I think one of the things that will mark the days ahead is that, and this is why I invited everybody down to Curry Blake. If you want people to listen and pay attention, the pattern in the New Testament was that signs and wonders accompanied, and they weren't magicians' tricks. The magicians of the era with the apostles wanted them to teach them the trick. They were willing to pay the apostles to teach them how to do these miracles. And the apostles said the gifts of God are not for sale. They misunderstood and thought that they were looking at a magician's trick, and that's not at all what was going on. So it's up to us to, in faith, by faith, exercise the gifts of God, which include signs and wonders, miracles. And if we're not of sufficient faith to do that, then maybe there's some prayer and fasting required. And, even the apostles went to the upper room and until they received the anointing before they went back out and began to minister again after Christ ascended back into heaven. So if we want to see a move of God, we have to be facilitators, agents. You can't be a blessing if you're not blessed.
Yeah.
And the corollary there is a candle is used up in doing whatever it does. It's consumed. And when the candle's burned to the bottom of the wick, it's gone. It's over. It's got to be reconstituted somehow. It's into the ground. The Bible doesn't use candles in describing us. So witchcraft does. Occult things do. The biblical is a lamp. And a lamp can be refilled with oil. The wick can be trimmed. It can be refed. New wick. And so what we are is a lamp to the world, but we have to be filled with the Holy Spirit and refilled. We have to be blessed. If we are blessed, then we have something to bless with. And a lot of people I don't feel God moving, anything else. Well, go be a blessing. Yeah. If you're pouring out of your cup, now there's room to pour more in. If your cup is full and you're not letting any out, it not only can't be filled more, but it gets stale. It gets stagnant. Yeah. So if you want the blessings of God, you be a blessing. If you need healing, you pray for somebody that needs healing also. Yeah. If you, need help with your finances, you be a blessing, and God refills. And, he doesn't want everything in those situations. He calls for the 10th. Be a blessing, and God will bless. And that's just honoring. If you believe that God is able to bless, then you aren't slow to be a blessing where needed. And you do it under divine direction. You don't just do it haphazardly and like that. For the most part, you try to be a little bit intelligent. I was talking with somebody the other day that had given a fair amount of money to a certain cause, and then felt like they didn't really, the people did not use what they gave in an appropriate manner. So I had advised, maybe a little less and more management to make sure that it's going the way that you had intended, as opposed to just throw it out there and see what happens. And I think there's, this exercising wisdom in what you're doing. But if you see somebody that's sick, don't be slow to pray with them. Don't be slow to be a blessing. And you can't out-bless, if it's truly done within a blessing mindset, what God wants to bless. He wants you as an agent of his good news. They went around during the time that Christ was here, and then after he was ascended into heaven, and they spread the good news of the gospel, that you could be free from sin, that you could have eternal life, that you could be reconciled with God above, that you didn't have to go to an earthly temple, that you would be the temple of God living in you. So all of that, if you're blessed with God's presence, you should be a blessing to others, and there should be a flow through you, and then you continue to receive a blessing because you are a blessing. Does that make sense? Is it clicking for people?
No, that's good. That's good, sir. Amen. When talking about the fire of God, Juan, was just saying that I think as Christians, Juan, we just live below our blessing. That's all. I'm not, being critical. I just think that if God's power is in us, and when we learn how that the Holy Spirit works through us, that's all. I mean, and we have everything we need. We just have to, like that. So the comparison with the Great Awakening was saying that when things go good in the country or in people's lives, they forget about God, Juan. That's all. That's the only point I'm trying to make, and just to encourage people to have that consistent, faithful walk with the Lord, Juan, so that, you're right, we can be a blessing. We can, because if I'm being, if something's slowing me down, Juan, I'm not going to pray. We don't like that. And I think the Pilgrims represented that. They represented that for us. So that's what we're doing in Plymouth, Juan. We're trying to kind of reenact what the Pilgrims did, and be representative of them, and like that. And you had some great speakers at your event, Juan, and you have another event coming up.
Fortunately, the StreamYard is clipping out.
You can't
hear me. What you're saying there.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, anyways, do you have Juan, can you share anything else about what's coming up, or anything? People ask questions all the time. Anything that is on your heart that people could, you did a great interview the other day with, I listened to, saying what President Trump's about to do when he's 45, 46, and 47. Would you touch on that for a minute before we close?
You're clipping out for me, so I'm not hearing what you're saying. I hope people are hearing you.
Okay. Well, anyways, you talk. I don't know. It's all good.
Oh, there you go. You're clipped out. I'm sorry, but the one thing I would encourage people is, this is a moment where we have to rethink where we're at. If the Pilgrims entered into covenants with God to establish this land, if we want to be partakers in the blessing that God has for this land, we probably have to go back to origins. Are we renewing and refreshing those covenants with God that clearly resulted in an amazing blessing upon this people in this place? If we have deviated, we want to go back to origins, to the original blessing. And there may be lots of people that aren't doing that, that don't consider that, but that shouldn't just be us. We should be careful amongst ourselves to, go back to those original precepts for blessing that worked. Look at America today, in the whole world. Something did work, something has been working, and there is a call out amongst the people. I don't want to be derogatory. Many people have heard in their hearts from God and are doing things every day that are trying to realign not just themselves, but the country with where God wants us to go. I think there's a broad calling that's being heard and responded to by citizens, not just here in America, but across the world. That's what these next moments are just about. The next 4 months will be amongst the most gripping in the history of this country, and the follow through with the next couple of years. I don't think most people in this audience have even the tiniest inkling of just how dramatic the next 4 months will be. And the aftermath of that, the follow through, if I was to put us within a category of a storm system, the way hurricanes are gauged, we're probably in a category 2 right now. It's a bit tumultuous. We're going to go to a 6 or even a 7 over the next year. And it's going to be gripping. So in the midst of that, how are we as a people of faith, supposed to function? We shouldn't be the ones crying and moaning and hiding under a rock. We should understand that this is a moment where we get to exercise faith. We come together, we spread the good news, and give encouragement to those around us who may not understand or be of faith, etc., going into this, and give them reasons for hope. And God's there in the midst of the storm. You're the messengers of light and good news in a tumultuous world. That's this moment that we're coming into. So I hope that this audience specifically will operate as Gideons. We're going to see chaos in the enemy's camp. That's why we have our lanterns and our horns. We're going to go right into the enemy's camp and disrupt them and cause the tumult there. And in the meantime, protect the land. So, we're going to war, but war with light of truth and proclamations of truth to take back what's been stolen from us through illusion, through great deceptions. And we're going to stop the deceptions, pull the curtains back, and show these wizardly people as not who they claim to be. So, there you go.
Can you pray?
Yep. Father God, I thank you for everyone here. I pray that you would give each person here in this audience clarity of mind, clear thoughts, that you would speak to them in their hearts and minds to prepare them, that you would fill them up where they aren't full, where they are full, that you would give them perfect opportunities that suit your will to be a blessing, so that you may increase their blessing, that you may refill their blessing, make their glasses bigger, to receive the blessing that you have for them, Father God, and give them clarity of mind and purpose to be a blessing to all around them. Blessings for healing, blessings for prosperity, so that in the midst of the storm, those around them will be able to be fed and cared for, and to know your presence, your peace, your way. We pray for all those warriors of truth, that they would be encouraged and strengthened in their soul to proceed forward apace in this dark moment and the dark moments ahead. That as we go through this near-death experience as a country, that we will go through it and prevail by faith, and you would increase all of our faith through faithfulness to do your will, Father God. That we would come through this storm, this group specifically, as shining like the noonday sun, that your presence would shine brightly through each person here out into the country, and that we would dispel the darkness in souls, in actions, in justice and lawfulness, that we will push out the darkness that has clouded our land, and those principalities, those powers of darkness in high places would be purged from the land by the light of your presence in your people, doing your will, your way, Father God. We seek to be children of the light, the heavenly light, the godly light, and not a false light, but through truth and justice, that we would be able with power to go forth into the world with ample supply from our own shores, to go into the world and to be not our brother's keeper, but our brother's brother, to be friends, and through kindness and through acts of beauty and your righteousness, Father God, to bring healing out into the world, wholeness into the world, and to oppose the devil wherever we may find him, to attack his activities wherever he may be, and to bring light to those held in darkness and freedom across the world according to your will, Father God, that men may serve you from liberty, not from compulsion, and not having to hide their faith in the dark. We look to you, Father God, for the energy, the supply, the clarity of mind, and the understanding of how to move to accomplish these things according to your will. We pray to be Gideons, those that are chosen by you specially, as we go into the enemy's camps, and at the appointed moment bring them to complete chaos, not against us or your children or your purposes, but to destroy each other's camps, to destroy each other's armaments, to destroy each other's evil intention, that we may enjoy a time of peace, prosperity, clarity of mind across the world, according to your will, even in the midst of the darkness. We ask for protection, angelic protection throughout this whole camp and throughout those places that the people in this camp are warriors to protect and defend. That each one here would have all the necessary provision, angelic assistance, divine direction to do your will, Father God, your way, with an instant clarity of mind and purpose. We thank you for the opportunity to come together, for the will in our hearts, that you have put your presence inside of us, and we ask for your help to do your will, your way, and enjoy your supply accordingly, your blessing, Father God. Bless us that we may be a blessing according to your will. We ask all this in Jesus' name, by the blood of Christ. Make it so. Amen.
Amen. Hey, can you hear me? Thank you, Juan.
Yep.
And everyone's looking forward to next week. And thanks for taking the time. You're busy with everybody, and we appreciate. Thank you from all these people on. It's everywhere. People from Canada, Australia, everyone. They're so grateful for what you do, sir. So I'm just blessed to share the gratitude for all that you do. And when's the last day off again? August 6th of 2020?
2024 or 2020, August 4th.
Well, hey, before we close, Juan, you ready? Here's to integrity. They always had our votes, and that's not all she wrote. Let's not forget Dominion fraud and those traitorous turncoats.
2020, it's not over yet.
Thank you, Juan.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
See you later, folks.
Love you from everybody.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
All right. Let's get it on. All right. So there's going to be a lot of reveal in this one. All right. So let's look at, Disclosure Day movie review. I'm going to give you that. We're going to look at the Nazi deep state's control of Earth, how that came about, how we're trying to take that down and overcome that so we can get into the golden age. It will never happen unless we take down this Nazi control of Earth, which they are definitely controlling Earth right now. All right, Eisenhower, the White Hats. We're going to talk about that, how there are white hats, right? Yes, there are white hats. Cloning and the dumbs. We're probably going to talk a little bit about Tartaria as well. So let's look at the recent Disclosure Day movie. We'll look at this a little bit, and I'll talk about my ideas of that movie, having seen that movie yesterday and what I think about it and what I think it's all about, right? So I think that we need to be aware that, there are groups out there that are trying to feed us information. And again, if you have the deep state Nazis, yes, the Nazis won World War II and are still in control, then you start to see that they control everything. They control all of the media, and then you look at all of the corporations. They control that, and we'll talk about how that came about, how they came in 1952, July 20th of 1952, and 36 ships. Those round craft. They came in over the Capitol, beamed down with hundreds of stormtroopers, and basically told the Congress, the president, who had already contacted Truman at the time, and there was lots of, because we were talking about corporate type stuff, the top corporations were there, and that's one of the reasons why they want to come in. So they've controlled the world since then, pretty much. So let's look at Disclosure Day. Now, Disclosure Day, there's Steven Spielberg, and we're going to talk about Steven Spielberg. He's done a lot of these movies, lots and lots of these movies. Similarly, he's done Close Encounters of the Third Kind 49 years ago, almost 50 years ago, and we'll just walk through all the different movies he's gone through that he's done, and a little kind of a background on all of those. But this movie right here is, in my opinion, it's not a disclosure so much as it is showing you how they control us, right? So now we know that the tall grays, not all of them, just like not all humans, because there's Nazis and there's people like me and you who are not Nazis. We are basically good humans, and then there's bad humans. There's bad tall grays. There's good tall grays. There's little grays, which are basically kind of clone-ish robot type beings that are made for the tall grays as slaves. And then you have the Draco reptilian. We've talked about all these, and they're starting to be disclosed. This information is coming out. It's starting to slip past the control system of the Nazi, deep state, control the media, and that includes the movies and so forth. Now, this is, in my opinion, one of those deep state controlled movies. Steven Spielberg is, he's the director that's controlled by them. Whether he's cloned now or not remains to be seen. But regardless, and we're going to talk about cloning, of course, and we're going to see more and more of this come out because the white hats that started under Eisenhower when he came into office, helped by the people from Venus, right? So there's 60 different groups that control our, not only our planetary system and our solar system and the galaxy that we live in, 60 different races. Not all of them are good. All right. The Venusians are basically good. You have Val Thor that try to work with Truman and then work with Eisenhower. And that's where the white hats started. Right. So that's going to be something we're going to talk a little bit more in detail. But let's look at this movie a little bit, because it's basically showing that there is a parallel group that is controlling everything. And that's the Nazis from 1952, where they came in and started controlling everything. All right. The corporations, they all had to sign a treaty with the Nazis. Otherwise, they would have been exterminated. So what are you going to do? So all of the Senate, the Congress, and the corporate heads of the time and the president all signed an agreement with the Nazis. All right, so that's where we are right now. There's 444 that are watching us right now. So that's kind of a little indicator that, yes, that's right. All right, thank you, Angelic Realm. So let's look at this movie a little bit. All right, so I'm not going to play the sound because then they won't let me monetize, but we'll play a little bit of this. Now, it's showing, are they people? So he's showing her, his girlfriend, some information that he's gotten, and he's going to disclose it. And it goes into, how he was taken as a little boy, and this other actress that's in there too is taken as a little girl. You're going to see all these, and a tall gray. It's a tall gray that is involved here. So remember what I said about the tall grays, right? Not so good for the most part. Now here's a crop circle that was formed real quick, as you guys can see here. So it's taking, I believe, some of the crop circles are made by the good ETs and some by the bad ETs, right? It's not all good stuff. There's not all good ETs. There's not all bad ETs. There's not all good humans. There's not all bad humans. So we're seeing, how each plays against each other. And most of humanity has been, thinking that everything's all hunky-dory over the last, I'd say, 6 years. We've all had a rude awakening. That's part of the process that we're going through right now of disclosure. All right, so this is a Spielberg movie, obviously. And here's the other actress that's involved, and she starts clicking and so forth in this movie, and that's language of the tall grays. So some people are saying they don't want to go see it because they're trying to be influenced. No, you go see this movie because you understand what these people are trying to do, right? Deep state. And you see that there is, like I'm saying, a parallel group that is controlling everything, and that's the Nazis. So we think that, we're good guys. So a lot of you guys think that, the military is going to in control. We've heard that military is going to come and save us. these are all things that are disinformation for a lot of times. Right now, will this actually be the case? I think it's a possibility because I and other people have been the good guys, and there are, all the super soldiers aren't good. Some of them are work for the deep state, often most of them. But just like we've seen just recently with the movie Citizen that comes out and starts to hit people, right, take people out. That's going to be something. And I'm trying to jump around because I don't want YouTube to take a lot of this down. I put something in the title that's probably they're not gonna like, the Nazi deep state. So I gotta work around some of the stuff, but we're gonna see I think activation of people. Now somebody said that I'm acting like some of these people that said, go to January 6th and then everybody got compromised there. That's not me at all. But there are people that latch on to a negative. I don't think military is the only way. The military, Milo, is completely compromised. They're controlled by the Nazis. All right. So there have been teams over time that have been taking out the baddies within the military. Of course, at one point, the Nazis said to all the military leaders in the United States, if you work with Eisenhower, and so from that point on, things started getting quite compromised. Now, it was very hard for military leaders to be good. Of course, there were some, but you have to work very silently. You have to work, you have to take people out, kind of like what I do in my shows. I call people out and I take them out to a great extent. I'm not out there like overly, verbalizing, I guess, on some people. I just go, well, look at this guy. Look at Sean Ryan. Look at, blah, blah, blah. You make the decision whether this guy is good or bad. It's up to you. He's talking shit about Trump. And that's part of the deep state. That's the CIA deep state operative right there. Now, probably they have something on him. I don't know. Is Sean really a good guy? I don't know. From what I'm looking at and from my background, my experience and what I've seen, and I've said for a long time, there are compromised people in the military. Hello. Sean Ryan seems to be one of them. All right. So some of them are sent out amongst us to convince us that they are good and they're working for us. Not so much, right? So you're going to have to be very discreet and very systematic in taking down the deep state guys, because, like I said, they control pretty much everything. So when you come in, you have to almost be like that citizen vigilante, right? And that's where military people have been inserted that are vigilantes were for a long time. And now we have worked to the point, working with the good ETs and so forth, to have built a white hat group that's strong enough to basically stand up to a great extent against these evildoers, right? And that's where we are. So Disclosure Day gives you some insight, I believe. So go see the movie. I highly recommend you see the movie. I highly recommend you see that citizen guy that takes people out, right? So, vigilantes have been, I've been talking about vigilantes for a long time, haven't I? So it's starting to come more and more to the forefront. That doesn't mean for everybody to pick up a gun and start taking out people that you think are bad. Now, if someone absolutely proves they're bad and the deep state allows them to continue quietly, maybe, right? So that's what a vigilante does. Quietly takes out the baddies, right? If they're obviously, I did that I've done that a lot, right? Now, not on the level of like taking someone's life, but taking someone out, like I'm doing with Sean Ryan, right? He's basically killed himself, right? I'm not doing it. I'm just pointing out something that he's already done. You go against Trump, look at everyone that's gone against Trump. They're all gone. They destroyed themselves, right? So it is a continuing theme. We're going to see more and more of these people are going to expose themselves and are going to get taken out. All right, so Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day crosses 195 million at the global box office, which is not one of his best showings. Now, it started out really powerful the first week. In the second and third week now, it has gone down pretty significantly. I don't know why people aren't going to see it. Like I said, it's not disclosure like we would think of disclosure. It's disclosure. You have to go in with a larger observant mind to see they're disclosing about themselves, right? Deep state is disclosing about themselves. So you have to go in with that. It's not like they're disclosing to us about aliens. We already know that. Hello, what? All right. You're not showing us anything we don't already know. But for some people, they're not waking up. I've seen comments where people are like, I follow you, but once you go to the green men, you're like effed up. I'm like, wakey. that's the comments I put. So it is, and you don't have to be awakened to the ETs to be a good person and to be someone that can help us take down the deep state. You can be 80, 95, 99%, on board. I'm with you. You could be a little bit off. You don't understand about the ETs. That's okay. You don't know about past lives. That's okay. There's a lot of things that people, for me, it's like a child, you're not going to, child is like, you teach a child, some things they get, some things they understand, some things they don't. All right. So there's a lot of people out there that are very childish about this ET type stuff. So disclosure could be something that helps them, but will it help them in the direction that we know it should, or will it be something that, makes them even more, I don't know, uninformed? It could. So, but either way, Disclosure Day, I think, is something that everyone should see. And who knows, maybe once it comes out on TV, whatever, it's available, people are going to see it a lot more. That's a lot of times that's what happens because people don't go see movies as much as they used to, watching a lot of this stuff at home. So just because it hasn't had a big box office doesn't mean that it won't get a lot of views eventually. I would recommend seeing it at the big screen because I saw it on the big screen yesterday early, and maybe 30 people in the theater. So there's a lot of room. You can go online and pick your seats. So I got perfect seating, right in the middle and great view. So I like being in. You have the relaxing chair and. I like the ones where you can order food, but they didn't have it at this one, but so it's okay. You get a little popcorn. We got some gourmet popcorn and, some ices. We splurged. Don't usually eat that stuff or drink, sugary drinks, but it's fun to do it occasionally. All right. So other movies that are out there, the Citizen Vigilante. All right. So that's some things that I think, you should see those two movies, all right? Both of those movies, because that's basically where we're at as far as like disclosure and taking down the deep state. So the deep state, like I said, is very much in control, guys, to a great extent across the board. And is that going to change, rapidly? It can. It can change very rapidly, but what is it going to take for that to happen? It takes people waking up and getting on board with this. All right. The more people that wake up, the more people that get involved, the faster this goes. Otherwise, it's like 6 years later, we're like, God, when are people going to wake up? You know, it's like, it's crazy. So, you know, they're high tech. They have bioweapons, you know, and they're probably going to release more. And they're probably going to have some earthquakes kick off at some point, sometime. It's not going to come when, you know, those of us that are very skilled at seeing things come into the future, we can see them coming, but a lot of times they control when it happens. So I can warn and say when it's going to come, but I can, and sometimes in the past I've been like, you know, a day or two out when these events happen. But like I said, it's very, very hard now to, you know, accurately, you know, predict exactly dates and times. I used to do date and time. It's going to have attack on this day at this area at this time, and then there's going to be another one over here, and a week later there's going to be another one here, and I just was crushing it. But you know, after 2012, it got a little tighter. Timelines started getting not so accurate because we are waking up and we're changing the timelines. So we're, you know, having an effect on the timelines. We're having an effect on the deep state's ability to control us through our consciousness. So that is coming. It doesn't have, and I think that that's the biggest thing that's happening, and that's why they're so ruthless in controlling our consciousness, because they know that if enough of us wake up, which has really already happened, then we start to collapse their control system. So this is the war that we're in. This is the way these things work. Now, this has been going on for a long time, this control system. You look back at cartoons. I remember watching cartoons when I was a little boy, like this one. How many of you guys remember this one? So that's like a lot of drones right now. So the drones can break down quite a bit. And you can see, you know, how all of this information was starting to come in all the way back then. Now, when did the Jetsons come out? How long has it been? It came out in 62, 63. So it was only 2 years, 62 and 63, that it was actually out. So they fed us a little bit, right? And we're all like, well, that's the way it's going to be. And we're all talking, yeah, we're like, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to be flying around. And so we still don't have that. All right. So that's a long time ago. That's what, 64 years ago. And it's still not here. Nothing close to it. We don't have moving sidewalks, but we got escalators, unless you're in New York during the summer. And, you know, the mayor says, you know, we're going to cut off the escalators. We want you to like stop using your AC. I saw somewhere it was like hundreds or thousands of ACs, those little AC units you have in apartments and so forth. Thousands of those was the equivalent of one of those electric buses that Mamdani says he's going to make free for everybody. So all these people are having to do without. It's a total communist system. It's typical to communism. People are going to get tired of it, and they're probably going to rise up. Or maybe we'll help them. I don't know. So I don't like to help stupid people. I would rather them, you know, experience their stupidity so they don't do it anymore. But I don't know. Might have to help them out. So we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with this communism bullshit. It's not supposed to be happening in the United States. Of course, you know, they opened the borders and they flooded us with a lot of these illegal immigrants. A lot of them are from radical Middle Eastern countries, and a lot of those radical, you know, Middle Eastern warriors came in with all that. That's obvious, right? I think that, you know, some of them have been taken down over a little period of time here, but now think about all the fraud that is happening, that is being exposed right now with the Democrat Party, and a lot of, like, California just more recently. Where do you think all that money's going? Where do you think all that money's going? it's going to fund this army that's supposed to take us down, guys. All right. So it's not buying like, Ferraris and Lamborghinis for these people that are like in Somalis that are like robbing us. That's just part of their payout. And of course, the politicians get a little piece of their payout, but where's the rest of the billions and hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars going that they've been frauding us? Some of it goes overseas, yes, to terrorist groups, but a lot of it has stayed here, United States, to get weapons and ammunition and so forth. There's been illegal immigrants have been caught, transporting weapons and ammunition in vans. So this is happening. They're funding. They're using that funding they've stolen from us to fund our takedown. So this is more of the stuff of the deep state, the Nazis. Those of us that are waking up and we're not wanting to play along. We're not being controllable. Those of us that didn't get the shots and all that kind of stuff, they know who we are, right? So we're going to be targeted if this thing really kicks off. So it's pretty interesting how it's going now. Star Trek is another one that happened during this time frame, right? So this one came in when did it come in? I think it came in around 66, 69. So again, only 3 years. It only played 3 years. Now, of course, they had a lot of Star Trek movies, over time. But you remember Captain Kirk? He had that little talkie thing, and he flipped it open, and he said, "Beam me aboard, Scotty." And he gets beamed aboard, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's so high tech." That's so high tech. Well, that was basically a flip phone. And when did we see that? We saw that in 96. So January 3rd, 1996. So when was Star Trek? In 66, right? 66 is 1966, 666, really. So it was back, quite a while ago. And 30 years later, they come out with the first Motorola flip phone. Guess what it was called? StarTAC, right? So, I've seen these inventions way before most people. GPS. I worked on we were sending up satellites, military satellites, and in the SEAL teams, I was part of, testing the first ones, and they would come overhead. I guess they wanted to do it in the middle of the night. So we're like up at 0 dark 30, it's like, well, who gets up at 0 dark 30? SEALs. Let's go have them go do that. It's like, So we're up at 0 dark 30, riding around in a truck, and they have it was huge at that time, a big old console, and we could see the satellites overhead. It's like, okay, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Okay, we could see them. We could visually see them. You take the binoculars and see them and everything. But once we had 3 of them, then we would have accurate GPS, and it was so cool because we would drive and it would tell us where we were. All right. So 30 years later, you guys got that. All right. So President Clinton, one of the good things that he did, of course, deep state boy, he gave it to. He's like, I'm going to deliver. The military's been using this, and I'm going to give it to the civilian population. So we get these things, piecemeal. We haven't got the Jetsons flying vehicles yet, and those floating cities and floating schools and whatever. But we do have a lot of the things like the flip phone. And now we have even better. And we have, voice. Remember how Uhura? Remember Uhura? She was beautiful. And he'd ask the computer, blah, blah, blah. And so she'd say, computer, tell us, blah, blah, blah. And then the computer would come back and it's like, no, and give out information. So we have that now. All right. We have that now. So your smartphone, we've been doing that for a good while now. I'll tell my smartphone, directions, stuff that would have been, many years ago would have been like, you don't do that. All right. But now we can just say, give me directions to a restaurant, is blah, blah, blah restaurant, and blah, blah, blah. And would you like the directions to that? Yes, directions, please. So, and then it gives you directions, and you press on it and you go there. All right. So now if you have a Elon Musk car, then I guess it'll do it. It'll drive there for you. Now in my Range Rover, I have to keep my hands on the wheel. It's like, what good is that? But I hear on the Tesla cars, it drives, and I've heard that for quite some time. I don't have a Tesla. Now I just heard recently that if you have a Tesla and you sell the Tesla, then it's $10,000 less right away, because when you buy the Tesla, it's all configured to you, and when you sell the Tesla, all that configuration goes away, and whoever buys the Tesla has to pay that $10,000 to get it configured for them. Wow. And the battery only lasts a certain period of time, and then you have to replace it. And it's like, that's half the price of a Tesla, and $50,000 battery, whatever the crap it is. But, and in New York, where they're telling you to, the AC, you're cutting off your AC, the power's being cut off, and City Hall, it's at 71, 73 degrees and all the lights are on, but they're telling you, communists are telling you that you need to turn your light. Well, they're turning your lights off, right? And you're supposedly turning down your AC. Of course, they went out in the streets and said, "Are you turning down your AC?" Everybody's like, "F that." It's like, "Rrr." And so, those people that didn't turn theirs down, that's probably why the power went out. So thanks a lot, guys. So they were going to turn it off anyway, just to show you who's in control, right? So and if anybody complains, they're like, "Well, there must have been some people," and then the people that didn't are like, "Oh, I feel bad." No, see, that's part of their control system, to make you feel bad that you aren't completely controlled by them. So yeah, this is part of the deep state. This is part of the Nazi system that we exist in. They like communism. They like it a lot, right? So that's what's being implemented around the world, right? It's done really well in Europe, and now it's coming to America in a big city near you, right? So I don't know how much longer it's going to last. Going to have to be some kind of arrangement where that's going to get I don't know, it's illegal to be a communist, right? So it used to be, I think it still is. Maybe they just have to enforce the laws and we get rid of these people. I don't know. So but once you get them in there, it usually takes a gun to get them out, right? So just be aware of that. All right, so how many of you have the flip phones? Maybe some of you still have a flip phone. StarTAC. That's pretty cool, right? Now let's look at Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's another Spielberg movie, almost 50 years ago. All right. And they had all these, it was like, ooh, and everybody, it was like millions and millions of people saw that. It was this one guy, his life got turned upside down. He had all these strange stuff started happening, kind of like happens in the Disclosure Day. Strange things start happening because these UFO ETs have capabilities that we all have, but we've been dumbed down to them. So it starts to activate him, and he eventually they get the big starship comes in. What was it in that one Devil's Tower in Wyoming? I've been there. That's an old tree. That's an old tree that was cut down. There's old trees like that all around the world. So and that was one of the things they did to like destroy this planet one time. Those bastardos, those bad ETs. So we're in the process of overcoming them. But what they do when we get a little out of control, they flood us, they earthquake us, they bioweapon us. They've been doing this for a long time to us, right? So we really have to wake up very quickly. So Spielberg, obviously, a little puppet boy of theirs, releasing all this stuff. And we're like, oh, E.T., the extraterrestrial, and the cute little girl, she's in the E.T. phone home, and it's got the glowing finger. See, like my finger glows. See that? My finger glows too. So that's all like nice and all that sweet stuff, right? Now, he's been doing this stuff for a little bit. Close Encounters of the Third Kind we're talking about. He did Raiders of the Lost Ark, where we had, some spiritual stuff in that with the actual Ark, Raiders of the Lost Ark of the Covenant, right? E.T., like we just talked about, the extraterrestrial. Poltergeist. Now, Poltergeist was where the little girl looked into TV and she goes, "They're here," the ghost. And they did another movie with her, the little girl, and she ended up dying. And they said it was from some kind of problem with her stomach. Her something, because, and Jurassic Park, of course, Schindler's List. Of course, he has to get the Nazis, thing in there, Schindler's List, make them look good. So Saving Private Ryan, and War of the Worlds. Now, War of the Worlds, that's another thing that's kind of interesting, because we have this one guy, Tom Cruise, that's in a lot of his movies. And Tom Cruise is with that one, I'm not going to say their name, so it might be a problem for me, but he's with that one cult, right? That cult, the mind control cult, and that it seems to be a problem in a lot of Spielberg's movies. Problem as far as like the E.T. influence, because the guy that did that one group that Tom Cruise is with, he was really into the E.T. stuff, right? So I think there's some problems there, right? But if you like Tom Cruise, I like Tom Cruise, but it doesn't mean that I like all of his stuff. As we're going to see, some of the stuff is, all kinds of, BS is interwoven in a lot of the stuff. So now, of course, Steven Spielberg is doing Disclosure Day. And like I said, he is a deep state boy. And with the name Spielberg, that sounds very German to me. I don't know. Maybe not. But my wife took a picture of him not far from here in Lake Tahoe. And she has a way of taking pictures of people and their real side comes out sometimes. Yes, somebody has put it in the chat, the name of the people. Ronnie. Yes, Ronnie, part of that group. Eyes Wide Shut. Yep, all that stuff. So you guys are onto it. Anybody get the Mandela effect thing that I was talking about? Maybe it's just me. All right. I don't know. Maybe somebody responded to it and I didn't see it because you guys are chatty. I like chatty. That's good. Keep it going. Sometimes if you guys do questions in caps, I'll catch them occasionally. So if you want to throw a question in there, doesn't mean that I'm going to catch them all. Tom's a clone. Yes, we're going to get to that. All right. So very possibly. So that science group. Yes, the science group. You guys are good. All right. So let's look at some more of this stuff. Now, I've been talking about clones for a while. Now, there are technologies, and they show some of these technologies in the Disclosure Day. Of course, these technologies and these back engineered craft and so forth can be used for good. Of course, they can also be used for not good. Right? And this is one of the things that we've experienced, unfortunately, since the Nazis came in 1952 and took over, because they're advancing. Now, the white hat secret space program side is advancing and keeping up and even passing, I believe, the deep state side. But the deep state still controls everything, right? And that's one of the reasons why, like I talk about, the flip phone, did come out for like 30 years later, and GPS didn't come out for 30 years later, because that's the way, that they run the world. That's the way they run the world. They give us a little piece of technology when there's so much more out there. Now, this is Guy Anderson and Sean. He had him on. Sean Atwood had him on. This is a fantastic show. I highly recommend it. Talks about clones, Tartaria, and Freemasons. Guy was he's a London boy, and of course Sean is as well. I don't know if Sean lives in London, but he's Brit. So these two Brits get together and have a nice conversation. And Guy, at one point, because his father was into it and his family, whatever, became a Freemason, but he only made it to 3rd degree, and he got kicked out because he was disclosing stuff. Right? So, of course, you're never kicked out of Freemason. Just like they say, once CIA, always CIA. No, all right. I was never a bad part of the CIA. So probably the guys that are bad side of it, they're always bad side of it. I don't know. Now they try and still keep track of everybody that works in the CIA because they feel like they own you. Of course, they feel like they own all of us, right? And it's, to a certain extent, they do actually, guys. So Guy Anderson is talking about the clones and so forth. Let's look at a little bit of this. I mean, we've seen this. We've talked about this. Let me jog your memories. All right. So Mr. Gaga is moving pretty slow there. So that's part of clone malfunctioning. We're going to go deeper into this. Now, there's other clones that are out there malfunctioning. Let's look at this next one.
All right, let's go with Katy Perry's Glitch. Let's get that on the screen. Here we go. There she is.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Now, look how she presses to reactivate that eye. Right? So she knows, I guess she's been taught, if the eye does not work, this is press and replay, right?
The look on her face, it's like she's trying to fix it by tapping her head.
Yeah. Reset.
Family,
Yeah,
this
try
right
to
here,
reset it.
y'all gotta take a look at this. Y'all see that? Y'all see?
Conference. You'd probably think that it was a comedy show if you didn't know who he was. If you just arrived here or been in a coma for 20 years and you saw him on TV, you would think, well, this is some sort of spoof satire show.
Absolutely. And they just rub it in our faces, don't they? There's another one.
They do. Always in plain sight. Yeah.
So there's a lot of the glitching that happens with these guys, and of course, they bring him in. I don't know if it's CGI. This thing walked in like a robot and answered some questions. We've seen a lot of glitching from Biden. That's old. So we know that there was some kind of cloning that was done with him. Probably an actor that was playing his role as well. A lot of it. So Biden, I think, was executed. Now, if he was executed, that means the White Hats have much more control than they have had for a very long time. And I think that control is gaining momentum. So when they say the military is the only way, the military deep state is being taken out, and the white hat military is starting to come in. So I think this is what we're seeing. The white hat, and they're not going to publish it, because if you watch that movie Disclosure Day, they have a way of knowing everything, every thought, every movement. Of course, they're putting up cameras all over the place. These AI, data centers they're putting up. We're hearing that those are being made to handle all the data that's going to come from those thousands and thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of smart cameras are going to be placed everywhere. So these smart cities eventually will be completely controlled. You will only have a car that they give you. You will only live in a place that they give you. And if you get out of line, then everything probably will get shut down. You'll be locked in your home, kind of like a prison. You won't be able to go out because they control the doors if they want to. They can turn off your electricity like they're doing in New York already. And if you're trying to escape in your electric vehicle, they'll shut it down and make you drive back. So all these things are, that's really, where things are moving. Now, a lot of this stuff is pie in the sky because they don't really have the wherewithal and the technology to do it. Because the deep state ETs are only so advanced. The good guys are good. They're creative. There's a lot of us that are very creative. They steal from us. They take from us quite a bit. Now, there's another guy that they were talking about in the show that I was just showing you guys, where it's Donald Marshall, and he basically woke up at 30 years old. There's a lot of us that start to wake up at 30 years old. So they wipe our memories, and at 30 years old, it's like a trigger where you start to remember. All right, so Donald Marshall started to remember at 30. Kathy O'Brien, she was due to be executed at 30 years old. They basically take them out at 30 years old because they start to wake up. And so she was due to be executed. She's talked about it on my show, on many other shows. And then, of course, she was rescued. So, how many of them aren't rescued? Most of them. Most of them are executed. Now, there's lots of clones out there that are, back and forth. They have a new place which is called Clone Aid. I'm going to show you guys this little piece, and I'll pull up Clone Aid. So Clone Aid, basically, from what they were talking about in the show, Ron Anderson with Sean Atwood, he was talking about how Clone Aid, and you can look that up on your own. Clone Aid basically has a program where they do pets, they do humans. If you want to clone yourself and transfer your spirit into your soul into your new clone, you can do that. And I guess they've been doing it for years. So I'll pull that up but watch this one for a little bit. And he is awakened to these clone deep underground military bases where the elite have been doing this all the way back to 1945. So these technologies that the Draco Reptilian and the Tall Grays basically gave to the Nazis is starting to come in. They started coming in back in 1945. So cloning goes all the way back to 1945. They have Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4. They're upgrading their capabilities with this over time. So Donald Martian, he has his own website. He's got a Facebook account and so forth. You can look that up. But he talks about all this, and you can get deeper insights. Let's play a little bit right now.
To stay.
Oh, let me share the screen. All right. So great interview. This one right here, I'm going to show you guys. This was all the way back in 2013 from a guy like Donald Marshall. And they've been doing it for quite some time. And, there's a lot of people out there with a lot of talent. We've had the Matrix real author on. He's talked about how they've stolen and made movies out of his ideas, dozens of movies out of his ideas, and they just steal it. Right? So they've done the same thing to Donald Marshall. Now, he goes into detail. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight what he talks about. He talks about how when you go to sleep, not all of us, but he says when, certain people like, I guess, himself and others, when they go to sleep, there's a rapid eye movement part where once you go into that state, they pull your consciousness into your clone double. And then your clone double in these arenas, and it's okay because we have multiple clones of these people. And if they wake up at any time, their clone on the other side just like falls right away. Right. So The clones get all banged up over there because sometimes they wake up. But he says you, in your dream state, you experience some of the stuff. And then you get your consciousness wiped, so you don't remember it. Some people do. All right. So some of you out there probably, I guess they have these dumbs all over the place. Right. And they have people go in and do this, and they have an arena where the elite come, if you can call them that, and they can come in and watch these things and get involved. If he talks about how one time he didn't have any music because they were like stealing his music, and he didn't have anything. He hadn't thought of anything, so they just stab him. So people that in the audience, you know, they've never stabbed anybody. He's all drugged out, so he can't fight. So they come and stab him. So it's all kinds of sick stuff these people do.
People came back wanting to hear more. It was this kid that was making these songs, right, for free, because they never paid me. Nobody knew, right? Totally foolproof. So anyway, lots of people, famous, high-profile people went there. I'm kind of apprehensive to say even, well, people that know me know who I'm talking about, but they're the highest profile people go to these cloning centers, and they wanted to see this kid that was making these songs.
I just had a good imagination and creativity for making songs, I guess, these melodies for songs. And then it got really out of hand. They just wanted me to keep on making songs, and at first they were impressed, but after making about 20 songs that could be used, then I just pretty much became like a machine for them to use. And it just progressed and kept on going. And then it's actually, by now, it's an absurd amount of songs now. They were using me for about 34 years now to come up with songs. Yeah, that was the main thing, making songs. And then they wanted me to come up with concepts for movies. They wanted me to sometimes give them advice and just anything. After the songs, they wanted to test me out, see if I was good with other things and everything, even interior home design, as absurd as that sounds. But just anything, and the main thing was songs. But the thing was, after I couldn't come up with songs anymore, I was having more difficulty just thinking them up out of the blue, out of thin air.
And they were bringing me back every single night and saying, sing a song or we're going to torture you. Next night, sing a song, we're going to torture you. Sometimes I couldn't think of anything, and they would just like stab me and watch me bleed there. And they're all watching, and different people want to know what it's like to stab someone, so they send them out to stab me while I'm on drugs so I won't hit them or something. It's like that. It's very sick. But yeah, they're all like, we're so powerful, we're going to get caught doing this. No one's ever going to believe anyone. But that's because everyone else only had half of the story. After years of playing friends with them, they told me everything.
So again, how do they get away with it? Because they control the world. These Nazis, deep staters, they control everything. All right. So yeah, we hear this stuff, and of course they come out with counter accusations and disinformation and so forth. But cloning is absolutely real. And like I said, the Clone-Aid stuff, I talked about this before, and I just pulled it up after we get done with him talking for a little bit. I'm gonna bring the Clone-Aid site up so you guys can see. This has been going on for quite some time. Hubbard, science thing, ontology, place where they have done a lot of MK Ultra stuff, and they work closely with the certain CIA types. So this is part of movie industry. Most people that do the cloning are in the music, or not the music, but in Hollywood. So Hollywood actors are the ones that use them the most, right? So, but that's not the only ones. Of course, we've seen Biden. He had clones. There's lots of clones out there in the political side as well.
When I'm there, and they're all the politicians want to be cool with me because the celebrities think that I'm amazing and stuff, and they think I'm amazing too, right? Coming up with a song out of thin air like that, and put a bunch of references in songs. Other people have in the past too, like back in the 80s, this band called Heart made this song called Dreams. These dreams go on when I close my eyes.
Like he's talking about, he's living another life. These dreams go on when I close my eyes. So, I guess he's written, stuff for the Beatles, and like they've stolen all kinds of stuff from him. It's fascinating to hear some of this stuff. And you're like, well, he's just one guy. He's making it up. There's been a lot of people that have been coming out and talking about how they're cloned. And they just come right out and say, yeah, how do you do all this stuff? Well, because I'm cloned. And then there's more recent examples. And there's so many. So let me pull up Ariana Grande. And she basically said she has her memories wiped, right? So is this a clone, or is she the real thing and they wipe her memories? So let's listen to this one.
About music. You told me you're not going on tour anytime soon. Eternal Sunshine, you've said the deluxe edition is in the can. What's the next step? What do we got?
The next step is the next step. It means it must come out. It's been...
Do you have a release date?
You know what? They did the Brighter Days memory erasure treatment to me, so I'm having trouble remembering the details. They're foggy because at the Brighter Days clinic, they do the memory erasure,
What?
The memory erasure. They erase my memories. It's a little foggy, but...
If you could remember, struggle.
You know what? I'll have to go back to the clinic and see if they can restore my memory.
Is it going to be soon? Because the fans want to know, Ariana.
So soon. So, Mark, you have to learn the language of my fans, because soon means 10 days or less. I'm not allowed to use that word at this moment.
So it's not less than 10 days.
I'm not going to use that word today. I'll say that. I love you. You're so...
All righty. So let me go see if they can put that memory back in my mind, right? I feel that way sometimes too. But I don't know. Maybe mine's natural, but maybe not. Oh, Clonade. All right. So there is a company. I've talked about clones for a while now, so this is kind of fun to revisit it and tie it into the deep state side of things. The Clonade, as you guys can see here, clonade.com, CLONAID. So you can go and do the history, the first human cloning company in the world. Yeah, right. It's been going on for a lot longer. Again, if they're giving us something, it's been around at least 30 years or more, right? That's my experience, and that's our experience with the flip phone and the GPS, right? So founded in February 1997 by Rael and a group of investors who created the Valiant Venture Limited Corporation based in the Bahamas. And that's how they can get away with this, because Bahamas, it's all on, right? So in the first couple of years, Clonade has already received enormous media coverage. However, due to the pressure mounted on the Bahamas government by French journalists, Valiant Venture Limited was canceled as government representatives were thinking the laboratories would be established in the Bahamas island. Wow, wonder where they went. All right. So from what I'm hearing is the elite, they have their cloning places that are on the surface somewhere, right? And those of us that aren't part of the elite, if we want to have the cloning services, they do those underground, right? Or if they're going to clone us and we're not aware of it, I guess they do that underground as well, right? So the tall grays and the reptilians, they're still here, but they're only here in a no touch environment type thing, other than they made an agreement with the governments. Our government signed over human beings, us, to them to do experiments on and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of saw that in Disclosure Day, but they made it seem like it was okay because they got these abilities. And then once they were awakened and tapped into them, they have much better lives. But the ending kind of left you hanging, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it leaves you hanging. It's like, are you guys going to have another movie? All right, Steven Spielberg, are you going to have another movie? Disclosure Day 2, right? So he has done a couple, I think, repeats, of course. Indiana Jones, Temples of Doom, and all that kind of stuff. But it sounds like this one's set up for another one. But if they don't make a lot of money, if a lot of you guys don't watch it, they're probably not going to do it. So they got to make a lot of money on this, because I think they spent $110 million on making this. Geez, what'd you like? Have to bring in real aliens to do this movie and real alien technology? What the heck happened? So it's like $110 million movie, and they've only made about $200 million so far. So that's our it's like $155 million or something. So they've not made a lot of money on this so far. So we'll see. We'll see if they make another one. But these things take a long time for them. It seems like they just string us along. They're like, well, let's monitor them and see how they accepted it, and see what level of manipulation we took them to, if it worked. And if it did work, let's do another one real quick. Right. So that's the way it usually works. All right. So they have these cloning facilities already everywhere. It's not something new. When Biden first came out and people were saying he's like a clone, and everybody's like, clone? What the hell is that? And it's like, really? So we've been on a disclosure for the cloning for quite some time. It seems like a lot more people are open to it and understand the possibility of cloning. Although it doesn't seem like this is quite a hit on my show today, but it is holiday weekend, so maybe that's why. But anyway, I guess that show yesterday got a lot of views. He had it live on X. I think I've done one or two live X's. Maybe I could start doing that, but he had like 110,000 watching live on X, that show. So it was definitely accepted. And here, where I'm heavily suppressed, maybe not so much, but still, you beautiful people that are watching this, I'm sure you accept it, and you understand it, and you're like, yep, we've watched that, and yep, we understand that, we believe that. So but if you haven't seen it yet, I would say go see Disclosure Day. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can rent it on Amazon. Citizen Vigilante, right, will be another one you want to see. All right. And now I'm probably going to have to go up and change my title, because I say Nazi Deep State. They don't like that. They don't like that in YouTube, because that's too close to the truth. All right. So lots of love to you guys. Hope you guys had a fabulous 4th of July. It's still the weekend. We watched that movie, came up, ate a nice meal, and relaxed on the couch, watched something else, and went to bed early. I could hear the fireworks going off. We didn't watch them, so I've seen them a lot. I've made a lot of fireworks in my day, so for real fireworks. All right, guys, lots of love, stay in a love vibration, and I'll see you guys next time.
You seen on the English internet is so far detached from reality that I think it's time to step back a bit and look at the people who are really in control. So let us start with Donald J. Trump. We are now on the 5th version of Donald J. Trump. The original Donald J. Trump was financed by the Harrimans and the British Rothschilds, and he died in a helicopter crash in 1989. They then replaced him with another avatar who was the Make America Great Again guy, and he lasted until June of 2025. At this point, a different group of families who owned the Federal Reserve Board, the Rockefellers, took over the Trump avatar and immediately used it to destroy the Trump image that had been created over the decades with deliberate acting to make him look like a megalomaniac, insane person. And who are the people behind this? This is the Rockefellers, okay? And people need to understand this. Bill Clinton was the son of Winthrop Rockefeller. Hillary Clinton was the daughter of David Rockefeller. Other Rockefellers include, for example, John Podesta. He's Lawrence Rockefeller, in that branch of the family. Those are the people pushing the space opera, the alien disclosure, all that kind of stuff. And then we have other Rockefellers. For example, take a look at these pictures of Michael Rockefeller, who supposedly was eaten by cannibals in Papua New Guinea, who looks identical to Tom Hanks. They are one and the same people, according to my various sources, which include descendants of J.P. Morgan and other of the founders of the Federal Reserve Board, as well as European royals. And then, of course, there's Mark Zuckerberg. He's another Rockefeller. And they're also Obama, descended from Hitler. So we're talking about bloodlines. So then hire actors to play their roles and make it seem like, we have a democracy, when in fact it's all fake. And, we've tried to reach out to these people. We offer them 200 tons of gold to help finance. We'd start by setting up a think tank with that money to figure out how to set up a better system of economic management for the West so we don't get overrun by China. And the idea was to hire some really smart people to figure out how to set up a future planning agency. And then, once the agency was set up, then trillions of dollars would be made available to, end poverty, stop environmental destruction, turn this world into a paradise, all that kind of stuff. But they're blocking us. And since they will not accept the gold, the Dragon family has made a decision that we're going to offer a civil war raging behind the scenes. It was a huge attempt to remove Keir Starmer, who is a Rockefeller stooge, and the fake King Charles are using, and that fight is going to continue. So we're putting out a bounty on the fake King Charles and Keir Starmer because they have to be removed. They're Rockefeller agents. They do not work for the British people. And, these people have been doing horrible things for a long time. In Canada, they set up this whole fake, genocide of First Nations PSYOPs campaign to try to destroy Canada's image. It was financed by the Rockefeller brothers, who are also trying to prevent Canada from exporting oil to Asia by hiring fake First Nations activists. And I'm telling you right now, they're all going to be arrested as working for the Rockefellers. We're going to wipe out their network in Canada. It's already happening. Canada is free from these people now, and they're going to help the American people restore democracy. Okay? What we're saying is we don't want these hidden oligarchs using actors pretending and screenwriters to control what the American people do in the future. We want the American people to actually elect their own leaders and not just, be foisted upon with hired hands who do what they're told by their secret handlers. This is not going to be allowed to happen. I know now there's also an attempt to make it look like it's the Italian black nobility who are really behind the scenes, people like the Orsinis and stuff. And I went to Italy, I met these people, and they're not the problem, okay? These people do have a long-term project to create a world republic. They want, a world republic government such as you see in the SF series like Star Trek, enslave the rest, and set up a satanic rule headquartered in Greater Assyria, mistakenly called Israel. So these people are not the problem. The problem has been identified, and we need to go after them because they're obviously not going to step quietly into the night. And it's been scientifically amazed that the U.S. military and the police have not come in and arrested these people yet because they really do need to be arrested. In any case, there is an international boycott of the Rockefeller interests, and that is why the American people are suffering because the Rockefellers are trying to squeeze money out of them in order to survive. They're also trying to do that in Japan by bankrupting farmers while forcing consumers to pay double what they pay for rice despite abundant harvests. This is all an attempt to squeeze money out of the people in the countries they control in order to avoid bankruptcy. And we're going to go after them until they're finally removed from control of the Federal Reserve Board and the financial system. Of course, the bounty is also on Scott Bessent. And if you wish to collect the gold, you can go to either Taiwan, Hong Kong, or I believe the Iranian people. If you go there, they would be happy to provide gold if these people are removed and help destroy the satanic state of Israel and replace it with the God-fearing state of Judea. So we're going to keep fighting there, but I'm just so sick and tired of the entire fake story that's being put out as news in the English internet. It's just so unconnected to reality. So now they've cut out they pulled out a fake Steven Spielberg, who's long dead, and now they're trying to push the space opera again, and they're also still all in an attempt to stay in power. We really need to keep pushing because the entire planet is sick and tired of these inbred criminals who worship Satan. And of course, the other thing is everybody knows that we're also hearing from U.S. military intelligence that the Israelis tried to start a massive air attack against Iran and were stopped by the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians. They've lost the military ability to do any damage there, and they cannot blockade the Straits of Hormuz. So hopefully this will not last much longer, but we need to keep pushing. And remember, these are some of the worst anybody else. So that's why a lot of us stay anonymous. I don't, but many do. But we need to go after them until this is over. It's very important. And if we push now, we can end this. Okay, there's a couple things I forgot to add. First of all, if you look at this clip of a press conference with the fake Donald Trump, here you have we're reaching the point where the fake story that they're trying to present in the news is falling apart, and people are realizing that we really, Western civilization, especially American civilization, really has been taken over by an ancient Canaanite. They're losing the ability to suppress the story. At this point, a majority of people in the West realize this. We just need to have the military take action. Another thing that's coming out is people are now realizing that chemtrails are real, and that this is something that also has to be stopped. Take a look at this clip from a whistleblower who was actually involved in creating the chemtrails to understand.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. It says, could it be possible that the data centers are just large-scale terraforming machines in disguise? They seem to excel at using large amounts of power to deplete entire regions of water, which would turn the Earth into a desert if deployed the way that they are planning. What are your thoughts on this?
There are a lot of people who say that the aim of the data centers is to replace humans with AI and AI-controlled robots. So this would be the ruling elites who still control the Fortune 500 companies, trying to stay in power by replacing humans with robots, which they hope to stay in control of. That's quite a real possibility, but for sure there's no legitimate business model to explain the trillions of dollars being invested in these data centers. All they do now is they basically plagiarize from real historians and real journalists, and they don't provide a lot of original thinking. They don't provide any original thinking. It's all plagiarism or stuff they're told to regurgitate. So it's wrong, and we need to stop it. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Could you please comment on the corruption in the SAPs in South Africa and what you expect is likely to happen?
You know what? All I know is that South Africa set up a fake Mandela to keep the old regime in power, and I'll have to look more into the situation to make a more meaningful comment about what's happening there now. I'll try to do that for my Monday report. I haven't been following very closely, but I do know that Winnie Mandela did say that her husband would be replaced by a fake, and that the whole situation there is not what it's supposed to be. And I hope that the people of South Africa, including the ones with European ancestry, work together to make that country, economically strong and fair for all peoples. And they should not try to promote race wars of any sort. Next question.
Hi, Ben. One thing that nobody has seemed to notice, when Donald Trump was sworn in as president, he did not place his hand on the Bible. Check out the videos and you will see that it is correct. Does this mean that he is not really our president because he was not properly sworn in?
What I was told at the time was that the reason the Donald Trump in the video did not put his hand on the Bible was because he was an actor, and that the real Trump did put his hand on the Bible at a separate ceremony, which for security reasons was held away from the public. However, that Trump has been replaced by a fake satanic puppet now. So the person who is now pretending to be Donald Trump is definitely not a Christian or a believer in God. He's a Satanist, a puppet, and the Christian people, including the Catholic Church, are in the forefront of trying to remove this satanic filth that took over the government in the United States, and I wish them the best. Next question.
Hi, Ben. With everything going on in the current world, there doesn't seem to be much certainty of anything. What would you suggest that people do to prepare in the events that the White Hats do lose this war?
The most important thing is to remember that whatever's closest to you is most important. So what you need to worry about is making sure that you have access to a food supply no matter what. That includes, going out to the countryside, making friends with farmers and going to farmers markets. And worry about things like your friends, your pets, your own personal work, and try to ignore the hysteria on our screens, because what's happening is the controllers of the sort of great public story have lost the plot. And so my advice is if you think the White Hats are losing, is to turn off your screens and focus on the real world, because they'll never get control of the real world. All they can do is take control of the fake world on our screens. Something fundamental has definitely happened, and I think it's going to reach a point where nobody can deny it. As things stand, what I'm noticing on the English internet is that Facebook and Instagram, which are controlled by Meta and supposedly Mark Zuckerberg, are reporting the truth now, whereas you won't see that on the Drudge Report or on Google or on the corporate networks or places like Zero Hedge. So there's like two different competing internet worlds, and huge news events are being shut out of most of the networks except for, like I say, Facebook and Instagram. So the first example I want to start with is Representative Ted Lieu and what he's saying about Donald Trump. Please watch these clips. He's saying Trump hasn't been seen for 8 days, and yet if you look at the Drudge Report or whatever, he's appearing every day. And so there's something, it really is, I know it's confusing, but there seem to be different factions, each trying to use their Trump. And now we have this other clip I want to show you where, it's famously quoted everywhere, where supposedly Trump told, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu the F word about Lebanon. So some people took control of this Trump image and sent a message to, the fake Netanyahu, because he's also long gone, using swear words. So again, this is very unusual, but watch this Trump admit on some kind of corporate network that he did say bad things to Netanyahu about Lebanon. So there's a power struggle going on, and it's coming to a head for sure. But the important thing to realize is that there was a meeting of the Asian secret societies, and there something happened where the group that controlled Taiwan has now joined the group that controls China. They're now united, and Chinese President Xi Jinping has not been seen since May 25th. And I asked the Asian secret societies why this is, and he said that he's going to stay as president, but right now there's a major purge going on at the top levels of the Chinese Communist Party. We already saw the top military removed, but something is happening there. And I'm also hearing from my U.S. military sources that they're going to make a move against Jared Kushner and the Trump family and that whole group. And they're going to remove Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and the whole Trump cabinet. All of them are going to go according to these sources. Now, again, it's hard to know until you see it, but for sure, their corruption is being exposed. So, for example, here you can watch this clip about what the president of Kazakhstan is doing with the Trump family as a sign of just how corrupt this regime has become. So, the important thing is that right now, the Inspector General of the Army and the State Department and USAID have started legal procedures. And the reason for these legal procedures is to go after the Trump administration because the war with Iran has lasted more than 60 days. And so they have a legal basis now, and they're actually working against the entire regime. This is military lawyers. It's going to take time, but this is happening. This is really happening. So, I keep hearing it's going to be soon, maybe the end of the month, but I'll believe it when I see it. But something is going on. Now, the other thing that people are not seeing, if you're not on, if you're watching places like Drudge or the normal internet, blogosphere, you won't be hearing about the trial of Bill Gates and Albert Bourla and all these people and the Rockefellers that's taking place in Holland. Now, I've been writing about this for years, but the difference is, if you watch this lawyer, Peter Strasser, who's carrying out this case against Bill Gates and all those people, this is happening in a court of law, which means that there's actually going to be military enforcement. It's not just someone like me blogging. So watch this clip. This is a legal proceeding, and it's coming out, and hundreds of millions of people are now aware of this. So we've reached the critical mass, and there's no turning it back at this point. Something fundamental has changed, and we're hoping that the control of the financial system will soon be taken away from these people, and there's going to be some kind of jubilee. But it's not over till it's over. You still have this fantasy world where, for example, Elon Musk is going to, take his SpaceX public and become the first trillionaire, based on mostly computer graphics, although they do have Starlink, but nonetheless. But I guarantee you this time it is different. And one good piece of evidence is that Jared Kushner, who the Italian P3 Freemasons seem to think is their leader and one of the top people in this clique, he's trying to buy a Cold War bunker in an island in Albania because he's obviously looking for a place to hide. The man knows his days are numbered, and he knows, and he's looking for a place to hide. I don't think it's going to work for him. I don't think there's anywhere he can hide because the entire world is elsewhere, and they're just not going to get away with this time. I know it's been very frustrating, but something really is changing. Now, another thing that you won't see in a lot of the news is that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been accused by the Justice Department of staging fake Ku Klux Klan cross burnings and using government money to buy masks and stage cross burnings so they can fake white supremacy in order to justify all sorts of crackdowns on human rights and patriots. So these are the people we're dealing with. They've been staging these fake events, controlling politicians, and not just that, they've also been poisoning us. Watch this JFK Jr. clip and to see what I mean. So they're putting all these chemicals in our food, and we've reached the point where we cannot stand it anymore. And this is also global. Like I say, the meeting of the Asian secret societies is something that the whole world is involved in. And what it's going to mean is that the United States is going to be replaced with something different. Watch this clip from Australian television in Iran to see how the world, most of the world, looks at the current regime of the United States. And remember, this has nothing to do with the American people. They feel the American people need to be liberated from their own government. And I think most American people agree with this. But watch how the Iranians look at the Americans, because that's how the world's looking at the current regime in the United States. You know, that's all I'm going to say for myself this week. But, you know, I have been active. I've been making contacts with the U.S. military and Asian secret societies because we really do want to see these people finally arrested and in front of the cameras. But, again, they still control a lot of the corporations and a lot of the internet. So the battle will continue. But, you know, things are happening for sure. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. It says, businesses around me are going bankrupt everywhere. Foreclosures are at an all-time high. Good people are suffering greatly, and we need financial relief as soon as possible. If the Alliance is waiting on a minimum number to awaken to disclose the worst, why not release the resources stolen by the cabal now to the good people to help them survive financially, along with some meaningful disclosure? This economic stimulus plan will get the attention of the unawakened normies, make them see the truth, and turn the tide the quickest.
I agree completely, and I told my own U.S. Space Force and military contacts that they need to go and arrest Scott Bessent and take away his control of the financial system so that people can get relief. You know, we're fighting for it. But again, they're very powerful, they're very evil, they're very smart, and they're fighting for their lives. But it's going to take the military to do it. And so far, they haven't, but it is going to happen because their paychecks are about to bounce if they don't. But we're working to try to help the American people get them out of this insanely corrupt, parasitic system as soon as possible. Everybody who's listening or watching to this, please don't just passively sit there. Do what you can personally. Let's all make this happen. Next question.
Hi, Ben. What are we having going on right now in the Middle East? Does this war with Iran actually have anything to do with oil at all? Or is it just about the cabal wanting to instate central banking in a country that did not previously have central banking?
Well, it was an attempt to steal the Iranian people's gold and oil in order to keep the Federal Reserve Board from going bankrupt. However, some people are saying that what's really going on is that they staged this war so that they could raise the price of gas to force people to either have to buy electric cars they can't afford or to move them into 15-minute cities where they don't need a car and they can be in a little 15-minute bicycle ride prison. And then the whole thing is staged. I'm not sure for sure because a lot of it does seem contradictory. So I get information that all the U.S. military bases have been destroyed, and then yet after that we get information that U.S. military bases have been attacked again. And we see all these videos of cities being destroyed by bombs, and then we see videos of the cities that are still intact, like Tel Aviv, and it's just so confusing with all these fake, videos out there to understand what's really going on. But what I do know from my own direct contacts with the Iranians is that they believe the United States and Israel are ruled by a satanic cult, and they're fighting to overthrow them. And that part is real, and so is a lot, the Asians are also trying to liberate the West from a satanic cult. So that part is real, but as far as all these videos about war and stuff, so much of it is fake, I don't know what to say. Next question.
Hey Ben, you seem to be a little bit disheveled and out of sorts as of recently, and I'm wondering if you're okay. Sometimes your answers seem contradictory, and sometimes you say Trump is alive. The next minute you say he's an imposter. I'm worried about your health and if you're doing okay, but I'm also worried about the information that you're currently getting.
Well, I've been getting, a lot of contradictory information feeds, and it is confusing for sure. And I think what's going on is that there's a battle with different groups, with different Trumps, with different image characters, and I believe at the end of the day, what we need to stop using fake leaders like, an actor pretending to be Donald Trump, and actually, once again, get back to, leaders who are actually elected by the people in a real democracy with real freedom of the press. As far as my health is concerned, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling fine, but I do need a holiday. I'm going to go to Canada at the end of June. I need to rest, and I need to go on my annual fast to detox. So I'm not in 100% shape, but I'm not sick or anything like that. The other thing I need to do is drink a bit less alcohol. I'll be honest about that. But thanks for the concern, and I'll try to, manage my health better. What? Next question, please.
Hi, Ben. We are hearing basically nothing about the war in Ukraine and what's actually taking place there. I also wonder what are your thoughts are on Tucker Carlson. I feel like he has moved away from the narrative and is truly now an independent journalist, and I'd like your opinion. Do you think that the war in Ukraine is basically over? Is there anything going on? And on Tucker Carlson, do you believe that he is truly aligned with the people's interests?
Well, first of all, as far as the war in Ukraine is concerned, I'd like you to watch this clip from Colonel Douglas McGregor talking about what's going on there. So you can see there was an agenda to depopulate Ukraine. The Russians were involved, as were the Ukrainians. And this is Chabad, and the idea was to create a new Khazarian homeland there. And that project is ending, as far as I can tell. But the fact that we still see Zelensky on our screens, the fact that it's still funneling money through there, means that the whole operation has not ended yet, and it's still going on. But I don't think it's a war anymore. It's more of a, they say that Satan is the father of all lies, and right now, the Satanists are spouting out more lies than I can remember seeing. Let's start with this so-called SpaceX initial public offering that supposedly turned Elon Musk into the world's first trillionaire. It's valued at more than 100 times their sales, most of which come, or a large portion of which comes from the U.S. government. And basically, if you look at the details, they say, well, we're going to have power centers in space, and we're going to colonize Mars, and we're going to have 1 million humanoid robots. And remember, this company had to use actors dressed as robots because they don't actually have any robots. And somehow they're supposed to be worth more than, all the real companies around the world, like Toyota, that actually make cars. It's nonsense. It's a giant hallucination. And there's so much fakery that it's hard to know where to begin, but I know it's not going to last longer. The other thing that's crossed my radar, it's very important, is all these AI data centers are some kind of huge fraud. Watch this clip of this guy who actually runs data centers. So in other words, they're grabbing huge amounts of energy and stealing water from around the country for something that has nothing to do with data centers. And my belief is that the Khazarian mafia, the Satanists, are trying to create some kind of artificial intelligence god that will power robots. But the magazine New Scientist has just reported that they deployed autonomous drones in Ukraine intervention. In other words, they already have killer drones and they don't distinguish between, they see. And this is already being deployed. And we got to remember, the Ukraine is a crime organization. It's not a country. The Russian government spokesman and others have put out tons of proof that it's a center for... So how much longer is this going to last? We're all wondering, how much longer can we put up with this stuff? Here's one more lie that I want to put out. Take a look at this other clip of Trump talking about Iran.
A weapon.
The whole story about the war in the Middle East and the closing of the Straits of Hormuz and all that, it's almost entirely fake. The reality is that Israel has suffered the greatest military defeat in its history, and it's not going to last much longer. Listen to Scott Ritter in this clip here. Dozens of Israel's top generals and their main command headquarters was destroyed. This is supposed to be the safest. And there was another clip I wanted to show you. It was sent to me by the T3 Freemasons, but it's apparently been deleted from the internet because it's no longer available at the link I had. But it shows Colonel Douglas McGregor saying that Iran just destroyed 400 Israeli tanks with missiles. That means that the Israeli leadership, military leadership, has been destroyed, and their main ground force, their whole doctrine, which relied on tanks, is over. So Israel is not going to last much longer, and that means that the next step will be to arrest the entire, or 90% or more of the U.S. Congress. Actually, it's probably about 98%, as well as a lot of the U.S. government leadership. Now, is it going to happen? Well, we need to go after the people who are behind the puppets we see on our screens, and there are signs that this is happening. The UK Defence Minister has just resigned, and that's a good sign that the military is going to make its move against the blackmailed pedophile Keir Starmer and the fake King Charles. So that's a big move that we're seeing. Now, we also saw that the Chief of Staff of J.D. Vance, who's just an actor, has resigned, and that's another big move. And there was also some kind of lockdown in the Pentagon where supposedly poison gas or something was the excuse, but the lockdown occurred in the administrative offices. So, it is a sign. I was told by U.S. military intelligence that there was going to be some kind of military move against the fake government by the end of this month, June, and this lockdown is a sign that it could be happening. But for sure, the entire horror show that is the U.S. government has become cannot last much longer. It's amazing that it has lasted this long, but they are so hated now in the world that it cannot be much longer. For example, now only 1 out of 10 Europeans view the U.S. as an ally. So the U.S. is totally isolated. Every other country on earth also despises the U.S. under their fake regime they now have. And of course, Israel is finished, and 61% of Israelis now say they don't want Netanyahu to run for leadership. Now, of course, an Iranian bombing, and it's just an avatar, same with Trump. But the important thing is it's the organization behind them. It's the Chabad Here's an example of how real this is. Take a look at this latest Indiana Jones style clip from Iran where they found another 200 tons of gold. So, they've just discovered about 1,000 tons of gold just recently, and that means that the Dragon family offer for gold bounties on these people is real, and it needs to be acted upon because they are destroying the West, and the West needs to get its act together. I don't want this to be a one China world, and I don't think China is necessarily a force for good. For example, I've just been informed by some Japanese sources that the Chinese have deployed a huge illegal fishing fleet that has wiped out 70% of the world's squid population, and they're hunting species that are protected like whale sharks. And we need to have some kind of global common rules to prevent the destruction of the environment. But and if we just leave China without any checks and balances, that's not going to happen. I know that they're doing a lot for the environment inside China, but they're also raping the world's seas and doing other things. And that's why the West needs to get its act together, and that means taking away control of the magic money machine from these people. We have to go after their control of the hallucination they call money, which is going through the stock market. The AI boom is a case in point. There's no real market demand for all this investment. These trillions of dollars they're going to try to generate through IPOs does not have any business model that will pay for it. They're already cutting prices. Banks are refusing to loan to places like SoftBank based on their AI investments. And I've seen many big bubbles pop, and this one for sure is at the popping stage at this point. I think that people look back at this SpaceX IPO as like the end of an era, and even if they try to distribute some money to the people through welders that work for SpaceX or something, that's not the kind of financial system we want to have. We want to have the financial system, which is the process of deciding what we as a species do in the future, in the hands of people who will represent the people. In other words, we need to have the financial system working for the people, not for a tiny group of Satan-worshipping oligarchs. And the military need to be more proactive in doing this. I know that they've set up an investigation into the incredibly corrupt Trump administration, but we don't need a committee. What we need is we need to send special forces into Mar-a-Lago and all the other places these people hang out, and Congress, just round them up. Enough is enough. The Epstein files have made it clear that, and there are signs it's happening, but we all need to keep pushing, and it's going to be from the bottom up before we can finally remove these scum from power. But even though it does look pretty grim in the West, the rest of the world has already thrown them off. They've been kicked out of Turkey, and Iran, and China and Russia and North Korea has kicked them out. And now India is actually preparing to use nuclear weapons to defend itself from the United States, because the rogue regime there has been trying to cut off India's supply of oil by illegally targeting their oil tankers. And that's how bad the situation is. When we have, the world's #1 sponsor of terrorism is the United States government, and it's also the world center for all sorts of organized crime. And it is a criminal deep state. It's so obvious now with all the corruption surrounding the Trump family, the insider trading. Why hasn't the military already sent special forces in and grabbed these bastards? What is preventing them from doing it? And I'll say this, it's probably because most of the generals are compromised. I mean, it's going to be the colonels and the captains who are going to have to take action, as well as the military police. And they have to go up the ranks, and as soon as they identify someone who's trying to prevent them from arresting the imposter who replaced your Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump, who hasn't been seen since June 2025, then they are a traitor. You must arrest them. Enough is enough. Hopefully it'll, we'll see some action at the end of the month as they promised, but we're going to have to just, all of us, keep fighting until this finally ends. But internationally, it's already game over. It's really just down to the U.S. and Israel at this point, and the few families who control the Fortune 500 companies. We're talking about maybe at the maximum of 300 individuals who have to be rounded up. And I'll keep urging all my contacts to do something about it. Hopefully this will not last much longer. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first comment to respond to today. It says, Dear Benjamin, Magmar is the new globalist leader of Hungary. He is not to be trusted. The Pope of the Vatican is not to be trusted either. The great Pope, Pope Orsini, and the rest of the Orsini family are not to be trusted as well. No one in the British royal family are to be trusted, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, the British royal family under Queen Elizabeth was, and they have been, fighting to protect the environment. However, after Queen Elizabeth died, she was replaced by a fake King Charles controlled by the Satanists, and this was, there's all sorts of evidence for this. So there is a problem now with the British royals. As far as Hungary is concerned, I'm going to sit on the fence on that one. I think the Habsburgs, who are in control Hungary and Spain, have been visibly moving against Israel, and they are also trying to stop the crime in the Ukraine. So I'm going to give them a bit more leeway. In my view, they're not the source of evil, but I do think there are a lot of bad people in Russia with the fake Putin, and there's a lot of Chabad there. So I would worry more about that. Now, as far as the Pope and the Orsinis are concerned, you have to, I've been listening to the Pope speaking on a trip in Spain, and he was saying that they had to do something about the child abuse by the clergy, and at least he's saying the right stuff. But of course, the fact that the Vatican Bank still hasn't pulled the plug on people like Elon Musk shows that, yeah, there's something fundamentally wrong there too. But, I'm not going to say all the elite are evil. I think we're dealing with a satanic clique within the elite, and we have to focus on them. And that means going after the obvious targets, like the people behind the fake Trump and the other, known terrorists like Zelensky and Howard Lutnick. These are the people we have to go after. Once we go after the visible ones, like Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, then we can unmask the hidden controllers and deal with them. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Interesting news recently. Xi Jinping met the leader yesterday of Laos. Unlike what you had previously said during your video, it seems as though he is still active. What do you believe is currently going on with this?
Well, what I was told was that Xi Jinping was out of public view from May 25th until early this week when he went to North Korea. And the reason was because a major purge was taking place in China, including Politburo members. And this was the result of, information gathering that took place when the fake Donald Trump and the whole U.S. criminal government visited China. They were able to monitor their entire network in China, and that's what the purge was about. So I understand, and China has changed. They ripped out all those 700 million face recognition cameras, put them in the trash, and I know there was a meeting of the secret societies, and that they've united now, and I believe they're going to move the UN headquarters to Laos. But I do talk to the Chinese, and clearly something fundamental has changed there behind the scenes, and the first thing we need to see is how much longer the regime in South Korea lasts. Then we're going to see if we have regime change in Japan. Then you'll know it's really game over in East Asia. Next question.
Hi, Ben. How do you currently feel about the longevity of Taiwan in regards to its relationship with China? Do you believe that it will continue to exist as a separate entity, or do you believe at some point it will be consumed by China, There seems, although that many people believe that they are the same country, that there's still some form of divide. What are your thoughts on this?
The Chinese royal families sort of moved to Taiwan after World War II, and they control a lot of the finances behind the scenes of both China and Taiwan. But my understanding was that Taiwan used to have their own separate secret society with about 8 million members, including many around throughout China, but that this is now merged with the Hongmen, and there's this that underneath the scenes, China has now unified already, but for various reasons, for example, Taiwan was the heir to the Kuomintang government that won World War II against Japan, and they were the Kuomintang were put in charge of Japan after World War II, and then when they fled to Taiwan, they still kept their control over Japan. So the reason why on the surface Taiwan is still a separate country is because the whole issue of Japan still has to be dealt with, and that is happening. There's stuff going on with the Japanese royal family and with the North Koreans and with the Asian underworld that is going to cause very visible changes. I won't say when, but it's happening and not too far in the future. Next question.
Hi, Ben. There's been a lot going on in the world this week. Would like to hear your thoughts on the Belfast riots and what's going on there right now.
Well, there is clearly a huge groundswell of anger in Europe at the influx of military-age, non-European men who have led to huge increases in rapes and other crimes, and the fact that the authorities have been not taking appropriate action means that the people have decided to take action on their own. And my advice is that the police forces and military of Western Europe should round up all these military-aged men who are not in productive jobs and deport them ASAP. Next question.
I bet we have our last question for today to end it out. With everything that's been occurring lately, where do you actually see this going? To me, it feels very much like it's just too much to keep track of. And do you believe what we are in what's considered to be the end times?
I think we are seeing the end of Western civilization as it has previously existed, and that the whole several thousand-year-old monotheistic project to create a single world leader is collapsing. And in that sense, you could think of it as end times. But I think that what's going to happen is it's going to be like the planet Earth giving birth. It's going to be like a Cambrian explosion, which is all over. In other words, it'll be a very wonderful, wonderful time. Once this final infection is removed, then we're going to see exponential expansion of life, human life, animal life, plant life. There's going to be incredible things happening. And it'll happen as soon as we remove humanity from reaching its full potential, and that day is soon. So I'm optimistic, but right now things look bad because we're watching the end of an empire, and it's always not, a painful phase to go through before the new birth can begin. But I guarantee you, the good guys are winning, and the planet Earth is going to be turned into heaven on earth. And I believe we'll all be able to live for thousands of years. That day is going to come soon. The technology is already there. All we need to do is remove control of the financial system from the Satanists, and this technology can be made available for all of us who want it. Earlier this week, I got a call from the Defense Intelligence Agency, and they told me that they had replaced Donald Trump, and that the new version, one controlled by the White Hats, was going to go to the G7 summit in France. And it is clear from the behavior of this new Trump that the people who controlled Trump until June of 2025 have reasserted control over the official U.S. Commander-in-Chief. He's not as good looking as the one who disappeared in June of 2025, and I'm sure he's not ever going to get laid with Melania, but it does look like the White Hats are back in charge. And this little recording of him speaking about Israel, saying they wouldn't exist without America, and that surprised a lot of people. People like Henry Mako say, oh my goodness, he's going to get assassinated just like Kennedy because he went against Israel. But this is different this time. And it is clear that the U.S. military has been fighting. And these are the White Hats sent around the U.S. Space Force who seem to have taken back control. And here's another sign. Take a look at Trump ignoring the Ukrainian dictator Vladimir Zelensky at the G7, refusing his handshake. Okay, these are important symbolic gestures. It's very clear that the United States military White Hats have taken back control, but it's also clear that the battle is not yet over. So, for example, when I tried to access the Iranian National News Agency website to find out what had been agreed with the U.S. and the Trump administration and the Iranian government, the site was blocked. Okay, they were trying to prevent me from reading it. However, the official Xinhua news agency had the text of the agreement, and it's clear that the United States has promised to give $300 billion to Iran as compensation. What's interesting is, even though this official agreement was published, someone in charge of the Trump social media said, oh, this is fake news, I'm not giving $300 billion. So there's definitely a fight going on. It's not over yet. And the other thing I've noticed is that it looks like Ben Gvir is the new strongman in Israel and for the Zionists. The Benjamin Netanyahu avatar is wearing thin. And this guy is not a nice guy. Listen to him talk about how they have to keep destroying houses in Lebanon. It's like this. He tried to get a visa to go to Florida, and he was refused. So this top Zionist guy was going to try to fly to Florida to see what happened with their Trump avatar and why he wasn't reading their script anymore, and they wouldn't let him into the country. And the other thing that's going on is that the agreement between the United States, or it's the, what is it, Memorandum of Understanding, makes it clear that Israel is not part of this deal. In other words, if Israel keeps fighting in Lebanon, they will be destroyed. And the Hezbollah say they have already destroyed 518 Israeli military vehicles and 85 warplanes. Okay, that means they're really close to the bottom. And you have people like J.D. Vance reminding the Israelis that without American weapons, they're toast. So, you know, it really does look like the tide has turned. However, and the key is this, if the $300 billion is going to be given to Iran, it means that control of the dollar system, the financial system, has fallen to the White Hats. You know, because if it's still Howard Lutnick, and I don't think so. Look at him in this little video, how unhappy he looks at the new Trump speaking off script, or off their script. But if Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent and those guys and Jared Kushner have lost control, this is a very important thing. And there are other signs they have lost control. For example, it's, you know, now it looks like Peter Thiel has been outed as having his own little secret society with people like Kushner and the Secretary of the Army and, you know, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, on board, and they've been outed. So the big question, though, is if they've managed to take control of the dollar machinery away from these criminals, then we really do need to get working on much bigger issues than just getting the oil back. And it was a surrender, because Trump signed this agreement at Versailles, the same place where they signed the surrender in World War I. And he said so. If we didn't do this, we would have run out of oil in 4 weeks. The official U.S. estimate of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is 340 million barrels, which is enough for 17 days of U.S. consumption. So clearly, they had to do this in order to get oil, and now the price of oil is crashing. But the important thing is that the immediate crisis has been averted, but we need to completely revamp Western system of governance. Right now, support for major leaders in major Western countries like Germany, the UK, France are at record low levels. In the United States, according to a new Fox poll, only 25% of Americans trust the government. All right, that means that the government is no longer representing the American people. It's not trusted. It's not functional. And if we do not reform the system of economic and social management, China is going to leave us in the dust. Already, the U.S. produces like 1% of what China does in terms of ships, 10% in terms of whatever. They're completely lost the economic war, and that means that we need to set up a future planning agency. The Chinese have got the support of 160 nations now for a revamp of the system of international relations that's more fair and that deals with issues that the whole planet faces, like Antarctica. And by the way, there's something very, very strange going on in Antarctica. I was reading news reports that the temperatures were 15 or 20 degrees centigrade, which is like almost 40 Fahrenheit above normal temperatures. And this is supposed to be midwinter, but everything's melting. And so I asked my Space Force contacts with Antarctica connections, and they said there's some kind of serious proxy war there using weather weapons between the white hats and the dark hats. This is a bit woo-woo territory, but the fact is that it's not normal to have temperatures 20 degrees above normal, and it was supposed to be Antarctic midwinter. So something strange is happening there. But getting back to the here and now, but we still don't see any arrests. So hopefully the White Hats, now that they're back in charge, they can go in, they can round up all the members of Congress who've accepted, leadership or obedient, who obey Israel like slaves, completely contrary to the wishes of the American people. Once they're arrested, we'll know this is really happening. But the fact that this Trump has changed everything he's saying is a very good sign, and we need to support him. And the other thing is that Christians need to get more active. I was just, putting together pieces, and it looks like they burned or destroyed more than 100 churches in France in the past year. In Canada, it's like 132 churches, and they're destroying churches in the UK. Christians are under attack everywhere, and it's not just Christians. In Japan,
Restored Republic via GCR update. A significant global reset of the financial system is declared complete, with the ISO 20022 integration described as live-in having surpassed legacy mainframes and the SWIFT protocol. Tier 4B liquidities are now positioned, leading to the reported permanent detachment and zero out of mortgages and debt ledgers from central banks, and the full calibration of quantum vaults with new asset-backed valuations. Protocol 99 is active and the Starlink quantum grid has achieved full coverage. The narrative frames these technical disruptions as a necessary transition toward a new global internet infrastructure, urging readers to view the temporary loss of connectivity as a strategic deletion of old systems rather than a sign of collapse. On July 1, 2026, LTC Tulsi Gabbard, accompanied by the U.S. military, inspected a rebuilt CERN facility to assert U.S. control and record operations related to advanced particles capable of facilitating time and dimension travel, with a mega disclosure anticipated after 2028, all connected to existing military jump rooms, moon bases, and Black Rock. DNI initiated a significant purge within national intelligence, leading to secret arrests of spies and traitors processed through military courts, aimed at exposing a deep state conspiracy involving figures like Obama, the CIA, and FBI. Possible timing: Saturday, July 4, 2026. Many observers are pointing to this Independence Day as a potential watershed moment for the global reset. The speculation is fueled by the reported zero-out sequence of debt ledgers and the arrival of quantum-backed asset valuations. If the rumors regarding the activation of NISARA/JAZARA protocols hold true, This holiday could represent more than just our nation's 250th birthday, it could mark the official unveiling of a new, gold-backed rainbow currency system. While skeptics remain cautious, the convergence of high-level anti-corruption crackdowns in Iraq and the reported silence from key industry figures suggests that we are at a precipice where secrecy is being prioritized over public disclosure. Looking ahead to the week following July 4th, expect a period of intense cleanup and transition. While some sources suggest early dates for a currency revaluation, RV, others warn that full implementation is a process tied to ongoing global de-corruption efforts. Global Currency Reset, Friday, July 3, 2026. The ISO 20022 integration and the end of legacy banking, according to recent reports from within the Tier 4B and ISO 20022 community. The migration to the new financial ledger has officially overtaken legacy mainframe systems. The integration is characterized as complete, signaling a permanent detachment of debt and mortgage ledgers from the traditional central banking grid. As a result, a zero-out sequence is currently running, effectively neutralizing old debt structures. Friday, July 3, 2026. NISRA/JAZARA and Rainbow Currency, the reveal of NISRA, National Economic Security and Recovery Act, marks a radical departure from the status quo of the Federal Reserve. The core of this transition is the Jubilee, or a total forgiveness of debt, including credit cards and mortgages tied to what are described as illegal banking activities. In a move that would fundamentally reorganize the American economy, the act proposes the abolition of the IRS and the total removal of income tax. Friday, July 3, 2026 marks in the Iraqi progress, during the July 3 Coffee with Marx session, featuring guests like Mr. Cottrell and Wade Holder. The discussion focused on the roller coaster of timing regarding the revaluation, RV. While there is significant debate among sources, some pointing to a July release and others suggesting a September timeline to coincide with troop withdrawals from Iraq, the consensus remains that a massive cleanup operation is underway. The intel highlights significant progress in Iraq, where Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi has reportedly led an anti-corruption crackdown resulting in the recovery of 3 quadrillion dinars from corrupt officials. There are also reports that Iraqi funds previously frozen by the Federal Reserve have been released, sparking speculation that the dinar rate is being digitally adjusted behind the scenes. While some prominent voices in the community have gone silent, potentially due to non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, the general sentiment remains optimistic, with many looking toward the 250th anniversary of the United States as a symbolic window for these historic changes to fully manifest. Thursday, July 2, 2026. It's over. Tier 4B liquidities positioning in ISO 20022 is live. It's over. While you are looking at the headlines, I am looking at the live ISO 20022 integration sheets. The migration didn't just start, it has already overtaken the legacy mainframes. I told you Tier 4B liquidities were positioning, and now the ledger is officially moving under my coordinates. Here is what I am seeing on the back end right now: mortgages and debt ledgers, permanently detached from the central banking grid. The zero-out sequence is running. The SWIFT protocol, completely bypassed. The digital ghost town has no path back to reality. Your quantum vaults, fully calibrated. The new asset-backed valuation is ready to populate your screens. I didn't lay out the timeline to convince you. I did it so you wouldn't panic when the global reset forces the final update. You wanted a sign. I just gave you the entire map. Secure protocol active. Stay with my signal. Friday, July 3, 2026. Blackout sequence initiated. Blackout sequence initiated. The sky's unplugged. They told you it was a solar flare affecting the communication grids today. Bullshit. The Alliance just localized and disconnected the last remaining legacy surveillance satellites over the Pacific. The old deep state eyes are permanently blind. Pentagon mainframe, Protocol 99 activated. Starlink quantum grid, 100% global coverage. Emergency broadcast, signal locked on all frequencies. Look at the flight tracking maps right now. The secure military command planes are in the air for a reason. They aren't preparing for war, they are running the new global internet node by node. The old world just lost its signal. When the screens go dark tonight, remember, the darkness isn't the end. The switch is cold. The new frequency is live. Friday, July 3, 2026. NISRA/JAZARA revealed, Web 3.0 ISO 20022 on Telegram, 2024 update. NISRA/JAZARA revealed, NISRA implements the following changes. Zeroes out all credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. This is the Federal Reserve's worst nightmare. A jubilee or a forgiveness of debt abolishes the income tax. Abolishes the IRS. Employees of the IRS will be transferred into the U.S. Treasury National Sales Tax Area, creates a 14% flat rate non-essential new items only sales tax revenue for the government. In other words, food and medicine will not be taxed, nor will used items such as old homes. Increases benefits to senior citizens. Returns constitutional law to all courts and legal matters, reinstates the original title of nobility amendment. Hundreds of thousands of Americans under the control of foreign powers will lose their citizenship, be deported to other countries, and barred from re-entry for the remainder of their life. And millions of people will soon discover their college degrees are now worthless paper. Establishes new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days after NISRA's announcement. The interim government will cancel all national emergencies and return us back to constitutional law, monitors elections and prevents illegal election activities of special interest groups. Creates a new U.S. Treasury, rainbow currency, backed by gold, silver, and platinum precious metals, ending the bankruptcy of the United States initiated by Franklin Roosevelt in 1933, forbids the sale of American birth certificate records as chattel property bonds by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Initiates new U.S. Treasury bank system in alignment with constitutional law, eliminates the Federal Reserve System. During the transition period, the Federal Reserve will be allowed to operate side by side of the U.S. Treasury for 1 year in order to remove all Federal Reserve notes from the money supply. Restores financial privacy, retrains all judges and attorneys in constitutional law, ceases all aggressive, U.S. government military actions worldwide, establishes peace throughout the world, releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. Enables the release of over 6,000 patents of suppressed technologies that are being withheld from the public under the guise of national security, including free energy devices. Because President Clinton's clone had no interest in signing NISRA into law on October 10, 2000, under orders from U.S. military generals, the elite Naval SEALs and Delta Force stormed the White House and under gunpoint forced Bill Clinton to sign NISRA. During this time, Secret Service and White House security personnel were ordered to stand down, disarmed, and allowed to witness this event under a gag order. Friday, July 3, 2026. Okay, this is epic, and it will blow your mind, if you don't even know it. Those who are awake will know. That's great, and this is what we should share. So, your birth certificate is where it all begins. This is where much of the corruption begins. The moment you sign your BC, it is maritime law. You are actually signing a form that you become a commodity of the system, and honestly, you Google it, you research it, and you probably have to be fair like I said, but it's true. You become in a sense, they seize all the assets and go into what they call a trust fund, and then you have 6 years to declare yourself alive. Declare yourself still here and then you can regain your sovereignty. But we didn't know that. It was a system they had set up so that you and I and everyone else were traded like cattle on the stock market. So each of us has a trust fund. And depending on how old you are, it depends on how much money is there. So if you're over 50 or something, you've got millions in there because that's how long we've been traded for. And this is another thing that is also crazy. That's why the mortgage system is absolutely ruined. So when you go for a mortgage, you basically sign the papers and they always tell you, come back in 3 days and we'll have the money. They then take that money out of their trust fund to pay for the house. So, that comes out of your trust fund in your name, which has been growing since you were born. They then charge you interest on your money, but they don't care about the monetary side. They want the house. So if you miss a payment, they'll miss out immediately, because they can repossess your house. For them, the house is a commodity, an asset. Wait to share what the banks do, but this trust fund is where much of your money will come from and be returned to you. This is their money that they have earned from you. So, that's just one thing. Then you also have the tax side. Taxes have never been taken from us, it is illegal. It is a corrupt system. So, all the taxes that we pay, it is not that they are going to return them to us, like the exact amount of taxes that we paid. What I have heard on the channels is the fact that it will be bond-based, so at a certain age you will get so much money back, at a certain age this. I think the 62 plus category was like 110K or something like that. But obviously they'll know more about that when it comes, but that's where more money comes from. Honestly, you are ready to live a life of abundance. This is money that was ours, that should be ours, that we should have been living with to create a better life. Instead, they have put us in this corrupt system where they have been fighting and they are taking all of our money and keeping it for themselves. For themselves. I hope I have shed light on this. Many people ask where this abundance comes from. Remember that the 1% controlled 99% of the wealth that now comes back to us to live a completely different life. They will give us what is owed to us because we should never have fought like this. Friday, July 3, 2026. Department of War Stargate Post, Tulsi Gabbard stepping down, Trump at Mount Rushmore, Catasthy C3 on Truth Social. The Department of War posted a Stargate. A portal. Old tech into new tech. July 1, 2026. Cue the Storm Rider at Patreon. Over the weekend on Saturday, LTC Tulsi Gabbard arrived in CERN with U.S. military and they go to inspect the operations because CERN is being rebuilt. Those are captured operations. The U.S. MIL goes deep underground base, underground facility with advanced tech. They go to inspect what's happening there. The reason they're doing this is because IT has to go into the world military records, world records, U.S. archives, U.S. military records to let everyone know the United States is controlling this and the U.S. is recording everything. These records will show that Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard and the U.S. military was there and showing they are in control of the operations. They're planning to bring forth these particles before 2033. They want to bring out real-time travel, diff dimension travel. Of course, everything is already known that the U.S. military has jump rooms. People are time traveling to the moon, to the bases. Military commanders already admitting this on national TV. There are a lot of bases in the moon having to do with military operations. It's all connected to BlackRock and Stargates. What they're getting ready for over at CERN is mega disclosure that's going to hit after 2028 on particles and how these particles can jump time dimensions and create diff plasma fields, and the US MIL can use those plasma fields to make people disappear, to heal the body. It's just gigantic when we talk about this. It's what dreams are made of. July 1, 2026. Cue the Storm Rider. Once Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard stepped down as DNI, they started draining national intelligence of people. Arrests behind the scenes. Major spies, people caught for treason. But that's not reported in the public sector because it goes over to military courts. They have huge storm operations that will reveal all that. Obama, CIA, FBI, the coup, biolabs, blackmail, treason. That's what's going on with Tulsi Gabbard. She set some traps, people got caught. Once Tulsi left, all the moles, all the spies got caught. They're still draining the FBI, CIA. Trump going after the cartels. Trump going after Iran, this huge gigantic deep state operation. President/CIC Trump, Mount Rushmore. We treasure justice, fairness, family, honesty and human dignity, unlike societies based on class, clan or tribe. We see every citizen as an individual, equal under the law and equal under the eyes of the Lord. In America, we speak English because that is the language of our founding, and for 1,000 years, that has been the language of freedom. We have a destiny like no other because we are a people like no other. That's just the way it is. We resolve and swear, we will vanquish communism quickly. We will send them into exile quickly. America will never be a communist country. We will pass the Save America Act and we won't lose an election for 100 years. $19.2 trillion in investments are pouring into America in 12 months. Many nations have paper constitutions and legal systems, but the citizens live in fear and squalor. A constitution is only as strong as the people and the culture responsible for upholding it. But as long as we remember WHOER, America will never ever fail. Speech ended 11:33 p.m. 11 + 3 + 3 = frog emoji. Friday, July 3, 2026. What's really hidden inside the Earth? The man who worked with Admiral Byrd reveals what's really hidden inside the Earth. John B. Leith claims to have been a radio operator. According to his testimony, Byrd revealed a major classified discovery to him. A pilot would have entered inside the Earth for 1,200 miles, about 1,900 kilometers. No molten core, as we're taught, but continents and seas inside, comparable to those on the surface. He would have taken 300 photographs of these hidden lands. In 1940, thanks to recovered documents, he would have set off again with a round-wing plane, crossed through the Earth, and emerged through a 125-mile opening at the South Pole. Leith specifies that if he says too much, his life is in danger. He claims to have already survived 3 assassination attempts, to have been poisoned. This testimony aligns with numerous accounts surrounding Admiral Byrd and his secret expeditions, notably Operation High Jump. So the question is simple: what advanced civilization and what hidden land inside the Earth is John B. Leith really telling us about? Share this post if you think certain truths have been deliberately buried. Have you ever heard of theories about an inner world or openings at the poles? Thursday, July 2, 2026. Ancient Egyptian underground city hidden in the Grand Canyon. Does the Grand Canyon hide an ancient Egyptian underground city? In 1909, the Arizona Gazette newspaper published an article about an expedition funded by the Smithsonian. A certain G.E. Kincaid is said to have discovered, deep inside the Grand Canyon, a massive underground city filled with Egyptian artifacts, hieroglyphs, statues, mummies, and even a pyramid. According to the article, the corridors and chambers stretched for hundreds of meters. Dozens of mummies were reportedly found in crypts. Shortly after the discovery, the Smithsonian allegedly seized all the artifacts and banned any further exploration. Today, nearly 90% of the Grand Canyon remains off-limits to the public. The native Hopi tribe has long spoken of secret underground cities called the Zippapu, considered gateways to the underworld. How could Egyptian objects have ended up in Arizona thousands of years ago? Share this post if you believe certain truths are deliberately kept out of reach. What do you think of this story? A simple legend or a well-guarded secret? What we think we know. Friday, July 3, 2026, Alex Collier, The Existence of Nizara and If Your Debt Could Really Disappear. Alex Collier shares insights about a financial revolution, highlighting systemic exploitation through birth certificate bonds. Nizara/Jazara aims for a debt reset, signaling a shift from current banking practices to more equitable systems. Friday, July 3, 2026, Proletario. We are definitely in a very unique moment. The video aligns with remote viewing data and psychic insights, suggesting a unique moment of energetic shifts and heightened awareness, as corroborated by various spiritual and scientific sources. Friday, July 3, 2026, Overclassified. Spielberg's Disclosure Day confirmed what unidentified aerial phenomenon researchers have known for decades. Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day features extraterrestrials disguising as animals for gentle first contact, paralleling historical unidentified aerial phenomenon encounters. This narrative suggests a gradual integration of non-human intelligence with humanity. Friday, July 3, 2026, Axios. The deep state is losing control. Trump declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border, initiating military control over the Federal Reserve and launching operations against deep state operatives, signaling a major governmental takeover. Friday, July 3, 2026, Proletario. The portal to the next phase of existence. The U.S. Department of War has revealed advanced time-space technology, indicating a shift in military capabilities tied to secret space programs, exposing decades of hidden operations and potential future troop deployments. Friday, July 3, 2026, Breaking Intel. Supreme Court reveals immigration bombshell. Justice Kavanaugh opens legal pathway for Congress to end automatic birthright citizenship. The fight for America's sovereign borders and the protection of the working class has just taken a massive, historic turn. In a highly anticipated Supreme Court ruling regarding President Donald J. Trump's landmark executive order, Justice Brett Kavanaugh has delivered a critical legal playbook that opens a direct, unblockable path to permanently reform and dismantle automatic birthright citizenship. Friday, July 3, 2026, Deep State Reckoning. FBI wiretapped mole infiltrates Gavin Newsom's circle. Massive DOJ corruption investigation explodes around California governor and his wife Jennifer. The fake reality created by the establishment has just been completely obliterated by a high-velocity political shockwave. The corrupt political fortress of California Governor Gavin Newsom is buckling under massive federal heat after an explosive, unsealed exposure revealed the ultimate nightmare for the globalist elite. Friday, July 3, 2026, Breaking Special Report. Trump is finishing 1776. Why Mark Carney, the globalist elite, and the radical DSA want him permanently gone. Video. As the United States approaches the historic 250th anniversary of its founding, the nation finds itself standing at a definitive, do-or-die historical crossroads. While the 4th of July typically serves as a time for celebration, it now serves as a stark, urgent reminder of the raw nature of revolution. Today, two competing visions for the future of the West are clashing in a fight to the finish, one deeply rooted in the American system of our founders, and another driven by a ruthless globalist financial elite paired with radical domestic movements. Friday, July 3, 2026, Explosive Report. The Golden Eagles have landed, America is officially debt-free. Donald Trump's symbolic gift to the nation signals total financial liberation from the globalist fraud matrix. A breathtaking, monumental shift is rocking the core of the United States, and the mainstream media is completely silent about it. A powerful symbol has been placed right on the gates of the White House, the Golden Eagle emblem. To understand the explosive nature of this move, we must look back at the deep-rooted traditions of true American resilience. Friday, July 3, 2026, explosive internet rumors. Is Edward Snowden preparing a historic 4th of July flight for a Trump pardon? Separating deep state fiction from patriot reality. An absolute wildfire of speculation is sweeping through alternative media platforms right now. The internet is completely flooded with claims that former NSA analyst turned legendary whistleblower Edward Snowden is making final preparations to return to American soil this July 4. Friday, July 3, 2026, breaking. New warning from Edward Snowden. His chilling prediction is unfolding in real time, and the West is next. Edward Snowden's terrifying warning is now unfolding in real time. China built the blueprint. Western governments are importing it. AI surveillance, social scoring, and digital IDs are already here. Resist before it's too late. This is not a drill. This is not speculation. This is a verified digital war plan, and Snowden saw it coming before anyone else dared speak it aloud. What China built is exactly what Western governments are quietly preparing for. That's not a theory. That's a confirmed pattern, and Edward Snowden just lit it up for the entire world to see. The worst part? It's already here. Judy note, our worldwide society was about to witness President Trump's global military alliance cleansing of the Satan-worshipping deep state cabal, a very complicated project many years in the making, and one badly needed in order for freedom to survive across the world. What has yet to be fully addressed were workings of local satanic covens. Their leaders, the Illuminati, Vatican, deep state elites, European royalty and dictator/communist countries of the world were about to be abolished, but we had yet to touch the millions who still chose to worship the dark side in exchange for power, riches and glory. Although because of the global currency reset, these elite no longer had the backing of the global financial system. They were highly organized and located across the world, from farmlands to the great cities. Using a sophisticated mind control system perfected in Nazi Germany, they performed their vile deeds of pedophilia, working their way up into powerful positions in society, politics, law enforcement, church, state, education, the judicial system, everywhere across the globe. There they used their high positions of authority to protect themselves and fellow Satan-worshipping colleagues. On Sunday 6 August, 2 days before the due attacks, 2,500 FEMA personnel began arriving in Honolulu. 2 days before the fires began. You would think they knew a disaster was about to happen. All then flew to Maui and booked themselves into $1,000 plus a night luxury hotels. 2 days later as Lahaina burned, most all were 100 miles away, back in Honolulu, suggesting that the diabolical agency knew that parts of Maui would be set ablaze. In that same 2 days prior to the fires, Herman Andaya, Maui's top emergency management official, and Eric Leckie, FEMA Mission Support Associate Administrator, met in Lahaina, according to videos in possession of the White Hat Military Alliance, which sent in U.S. Marines to get control of the situation. The footage also showed Andaya giving Leckie a tour of Lahaina and advising him where to set up barricades to keep citizens trapped in what would become a disaster zone. On Wednesday 16 August, a week or so after the Maui disaster, U.S. Marines were in Lahaina. Word had come that Maui police and a National Guard infested with CIA agents were supporting FEMA workers' blockages, both by land and by sea, of food, water and needed supplies from reaching Lahaina. Refusing to hand out food and water to desperate survivors, had closed down a desperately needed food station, and 2 days before the fires began had secured a media blackout within a 12-mile range surrounding Lahaina that had no cell phone or internet coverage. The Marines found on Front Street in Lahaina a uniformed police officer shooting a pedestrian in the back for unknown reasons. The cop then spotted a bystander filming the incident on a cell phone, most of them adults. Monday, June 29, 2026 Update: Ken and Barbie vs. Goliath IRS. Ken Cromar presently sits in prison, having been found guilty of living in his own fully owned home and after proving in a federal tax court that he owed no monies to the IRS. Despite the ruling in Cromar's favor, the IRS sold his home at auction and threw away all his possessions including expensive camera equipment he used to make a living. Ken and Barbara Cromar. June 29, 2026, day number 1034, behind enemy lines, dear Patriot friends and family, after 8 exhausting years, and 20-plus court cases in Utah State Court, Provo, Utah, U.S. District Court, Salt Lake City, 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, Denver, U.S. Tax Court and the Supreme Court of the United States, Washington, D.C., and despite the facts and the law and your kind prayers and signatures in our behalf, we have been denied justice in Barbie and Ken vs. Goliath IRS. Therefore, we have now taken our cause directly to President Donald J. Trump, just in time for the 250th anniversary celebration of the Declaration of Independence. Please read the attached request for a pardon, see #D below, received by President Trump's office this morning. Believe in miracles. Ken and Barbara Cromar. A. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Thursday, July 2, 2026, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has officially terminated all HHS contracts with companies owned by Bill Gates, slashing hundreds of millions in federal funding. The move is part of Kennedy's broader effort to end government reliance on the Microsoft founder's business ventures in the health sector. B. Possible timing, Friday, July 3, 2026, announcement of the Global Restoration Plan. Every citizen across the world will receive information about the new economic and legal structures, plus Jazara/Nizara protocols. All mortgages, credit cards and student loans linked to usury are frozen for liquidation. Saturday, July 4, 2026, the beginning of international tribunals on crimes against humanity. Major revelations will be broadcast worldwide. Quantum ledgers go public. Every citizen will be allocated a secure digital vault backed by physical gold. No more inflation. No more taxes on survival. Sunday, July 5, 2026, final stages of the transition to the new global financial system completed with liquidity release. People will begin to have access to their revalued currency and debt relief programs. Monday, July 6, 2026, a new era of freedom begins. Twos. July 7, 2026, the absolute revaluation, RV, comes fully alive. Debt jubilee activations began for those whose accounts were cleared. Law enforcement shifts completely to natural law protections. Wednesday, July 8, 2026, the unveiling of hidden technologies. Free energy and suppressed medical advancements are officially released to public domain. No more scarcity. Thursday, July 9, 2026, global celebration protocols enabled. Local communities organize freedom assemblies to distribute the first wave of restoration funds. On Thursday, July 2, 2026, access waves for Vet Seniors Terminal Q Patriots. Age regression to 25 to 35 prime. Pineal spiritual activation awakening long-suppressed gifts, DNA repair from generational cabal harm. Suffering ends as divine blueprint returns. On Friday, July 3, 2026, testimonials flood as limbs regenerate, minds clear from toxins, purpose renews. QFS Starlink med beds recalibrate body emotion spirit for 5D. WWG1 as cabal health slavery ends forever. The Alliance declares Great Awakening complete. Body mind spirit restored now for storm survivors. The Alliance declares this the full Great Awakening. Body, mind and spirit restoration to divine blueprint begins now for those who endured the storm. Stock supplies and prepare as final exposures and the communications shift unfold. The end of all suffering is upon us. Humanity's golden age of health and freedom has arrived. D. Global Currency Reset, Thursday, July 2, 2026. Bruce, the big call, Tier 4B, us, the Internet Group, should be looking for notification to set redemption appointments and start those appointments sometime between Saturday 4th of July and Wednesday, July 8, 2026. The general public will be notified to set appointments either Wednesday 8th of July or Thursday, July 9, 2026. A redemption center will give you a better exchange rate on your currency than will a bank. Redemption centers will be open Friday 3rd of July and Saturday 4th of July. SIM holders were supposed to be notified first through email 10 to 12 hours earlier than others. Could also come by text. Wednesday, July 1, 2026. High-level banking insiders report that Tier 4B notifications are already being prepared for release. The system is moving at an unprecedented speed, with historic transactions now confirmed in Hong Kong, London, and Dubai. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The full-scale transition to the gold-backed financial system is now irreversible. Global markets in panic mode. The old fiat system is collapsing in real time. Multiple major banks are seeing liquidity shortages as large transfers are being redirected into the new system. Sources from inside the IMF confirm urgent, behind closed doors meetings. They know their control is slipping. The end of the central banking cabal is unfolding before our eyes. Bank screens light up with final rates. Money bag emoji, IQD, $8.73, confirmed live on European trading platforms. Money bag emoji, ZIM and other currencies, final adjustments in process. Wednesday, July 1, 2026. Nisar Jazara bombshell, Boom. Number 1, debt forgiveness, a total financial reset. All your debts wiped out. Mortgages, loans, credit card debt, gone. This isn't a favor, this is justice for decades of financial crimes. Boom. Number 2, tax liberation, the IRS is about to be smashed. Say goodbye to the income tax nightmare. Nisra brings in a 14% flat tax on non-essential goods, cutting off the government's greedy hands from your paycheck. Boom. Number 3, the Federal Reserve, game over. The Fed is about to be dismantled. A new, gold-backed digital currency, XLM/XRP, will replace the worthless paper dollars, backed by gold, silver, and platinum. Boom. Number 4, constitutional law restored. Nisra restores America to its true foundation, constitutional law. Those with foreign ties, stripped of their citizenship, barred from stepping foot on U.S. soil again. This is more than a reset, it's a purge. Boom. Number 5, new elections, 120 days to wipe out corrupt politicians with secure, unhackable elections under constitutional law. No more rigged systems. The new QFS voting system ensures fraud is impossible. Boom. Number 6, financial privacy restored. Nisra ends the constant surveillance on your finances. No more government control over your money, it's yours, and yours alone. Boom. Number 8, humanitarian projects. Nisra is launching global humanitarian efforts, with funding that will transform lives worldwide. This is about more than survival, it's about abundance for all. Boom. Number 9, restitution and redemption. The elite's stolen wealth will be returned to the people. Nisra will right the wrongs of the past, with restitution for unconstitutional acts and unjust debt. Boom. Number 10, the QFS voting system. Say goodbye to rigged elections. With the quantum financial system, every vote is validated and secure. True democracy is finally here. Nisra Jazara isn't just a policy, it's a global reset that will destroy the old world order and give power back to the people. The 30+1 provisions are the blueprint for a global revolution. Are you ready for the explosion? July 1, 2026. Judy, I sent a criminal referral to President and Commander-in-Chief Donald J. Trump today regarding a claimed frivolous tax return for the year ending December 31, 2022. This undoubtedly opened a door the IRS would rather have kept shut. As part of the criminal referral, I have included evidence to show, in 1895 the income tax was ruled to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. The ruling held for 18 years until the 16th Amendment was ratified. In 1909 there was political pressure to reinstall the income tax. Congress drafted the 16th Amendment, which was ratified in February 1913. There was a problem with the ratification process. In 1984, William Benson spent 2 years traveling to the archives of every state. He came back with the original documents. The ratification process was riddled with errors, alterations, and fraud. States passed different versions, which were counted as being ratified. Kentucky ratified it after Congress had certified it as law. At its ratification to the Secretary of State, Benson published his findings in a 2-volume work titled, The Law That Never Was. The government's response was quick, total and instructive. They did not refute his findings, They did not open the archives and show America where Benson was wrong. They prosecuted him for fraud, and made it a federal crime to send his research through the mail. The government simply covered up the fraud against this nation and American citizens. Research clearly shows that others discovered the evidence and also ruled that income tax is, and was, unconstitutional even to this very day. But now, as of this morning, this information is part of a criminal referral sent to the President and Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump, and U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. Nothing can stop what is coming. Tom Fairbanks, Save the Children. A Thursday, July 2, 2026, a 14-year-old schoolgirl in the UK says every day her and her friends live in fear from the Muslim migrant rape gangs. Tier 4B activated on Telegram. I'm scared that whenever I come out of school, they're going to be across the road watching everyone come out. I feel like one day me or other people my age are just going to be watched by these men, and that feeling gives you a sense of insecurity, reporter, and you're at the age where you want that bit of freedom to go out and enjoy yourself. You can't do that. No, I can't. I have to walk. It's a longer way to school now. I can't walk into the town much anymore by myself. I have to really go with friends or parents, and I can't even really go to the park unless there's my friend's parents there. She has every right to feel this way. The 219-page rape gang inquiry report confirms they are being targeted. While Keir Starmer was director of public prosecutions, 13,000 suspected rape gang members and pedophiles were issued only warning letters rather than being charged and prosecuted. Hundreds of thousands of victims, primarily vulnerable girls, often white, working class, across multiple UK towns. The gangs were predominantly Pakistani heritage men. What we think we know as of Thursday, July 2, 2026. Thursday, July 2, 2026 military intel report. Operation Thrown Down is described as an alleged multinational mission targeting a supposed secret weather control network. The report claims QFS Maritime Tracking located a ghost vessel in the Pacific, leading to the seizure of 22 alleged atmospheric warfare stations linked to the so-called Throne climate system. It further alleges investigators traced the vessel through a Cayman shell company to a trust connected to the Rothschild family. Supporters claim the recovered equipment supports long-standing HAARP-related theories and allege the network influenced major disasters, agriculture, financial markets, migration, and geopolitics since 1979, generating trillions in damages. The report concludes that the final weather modification facility was seized, all frequency infrastructure shut down, and the alleged network permanently dismantled, describing it as the end of decades of claimed atmospheric manipulation. Wednesday, July 2, 2026, bombshell announcement. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent unleashes Trump accounts to shatter the corporate monopoly and wealth fund every American kid. Wednesday, July 2, 2026, boom. Justice Clarence Thomas slams SCOTUS birthright citizenship ruling, warns it devalues U.S. citizenship and betrays the Constitution. The shield is gone. Wednesday, July 2, 2026, military intel report. Operation Thrown Down, seizure of Rothschild weather warfare assets confirmed via QFS Maritime Tracking. We won't be giving him another nickel to develop more jabs, Kennedy stated during a recent Senate Finance Committee hearing. The decision is just the latest in a series of actions targeting mRNA vaccine development, with HHS previously canceling 22 projects worth nearly $500 million nationwide. Gates reportedly received an estimated $408 million annually from federal contracts at one point, a figure that has now dropped to less than $10 million. Kennedy framed the cuts as a necessary step to redirect taxpayer money away from what he viewed.
There's going to be a lot to unpack. I mean, so much happens really in the course of a day in terms of world and news events. And here we have a whole month before we get to reconvene. So, we can't cover everything, but we'll cover some of the points, and then we'll have the panel raise an issue or two that later on, if we've got the time as well. What we're going to cover to our audience today is July 4th and beyond. Brief commentary on the changing landscape of the worldview of Israel and Netanyahu. We're going to talk about Venezuela as the 51st state. Quick comment on the current true status of Iran, and Trump's executive order on quantum technologies innovation. This is a fascinating release from the president, and also election obstacles in progress And then we're going to close out with off-world entities and the release of the UFO-related files. And we might have a quick commentary on Big Mike. I'm wondering why there isn't a lawsuit being filed. I think you can figure out why. But anyway, let's move on and have a little bit of fun because usually I'm so straight out there, and because it's a serious subject and we have experts on the panel. But I want to have a little bit of fun before we take the first question to the panel. Run this clip from Dr. Trump. Well, for entertainment purposes only, of course, AI. And this, I believe, was published by Dan Scavino. So I thought to share it with, one moment, I want to adjust the screen thing here. There we go. Thought I'd share it with all of the gentlemen on the screen and everybody watching. It was, I personally enjoyed the Rosie O'Donnell and Robert De Niro. That was kind of fun. Anyway, let's begin with just the broad question. Anyone who attended the Fraud Fighter Summit? Anybody on screen attended that? Mike, tell us about that. What was your experience? What'd you glean from it? You know, what's your review?
So a great networking event. You get to meet a lot of people. We had Tina Peter show up. We saw some great upcoming films, Brazil and so forth, and we were able to get some deep insight of what's coming, because the fraud is it's not just in the bonds and so forth. It's also in the medical and in the election. So they're the same type of fraud is used in each one of them. So it was very, very insightful. I had incredible speakers, and the next one coming up is just going to go to the next level again. So really looking forward to having more insights of what's coming. From the last one that I was at, I brought in a lot of the speakers on my show, and I intend to do it again in this one. Mitch Vexler, who's disclosing the fraud that's happening, the school bonds and so forth, housing. We pay these crazy taxes, and we're reaching a point where it's going to destroy America. It can't continue. It's going to implode. So we're going to see, some really good insights, I think, going forward. And it could be in where Mitch is at, down in Texas, where they're going to expose it. And if they get resolution down in Texas, I think it'll be able to be used throughout the United States.
Excellent. And I think you're right. The next event Juan's putting on is going to be epic. But thanks for letting us know about all that. I'd like to talk about the 4th of July. We'll start at the top of the panel with retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi. July 4th, what can we expect? What are the highlights that we will see unfold between? So it's a two-part question. What can we expect in July 4th, in your estimation? And probably more importantly, what's going to happen after July 4th up to the midterms? What will be the focus in this country, in your opinion, and in our movement? And I know Derek gets a lot of traffic from his followers. We hear a lot of people. I'm not necessarily saying Derek's followers, but all of our collective followers. A lot of folks have all these speculations. We're going to have JFK Jr. surface. We're going to swing people from the gallows poles during the July 4th, and we're going to have the EBS will be launched. The new money's coming. All these things are going to happen on July 4th. I'm wondering about that. So I'd like to know what this panel believes may or may not happen in the celebrations of July 4th, or anything surrounding that. Ricardo, sir.
Thanks, John. This is a preparatory event. It in and of itself, obviously, it's the 250th anniversary. It's the biggest party for the millennium. As far as the US is concerned, this is fantastic, and it should be. But in context, in terms of this war, you've got the World Cup going on, and you've seen the flood of videos coming out from people of different nations, and the message is identical. We heard America was divided. We heard America was brutalized. We heard it was all lies. And it doesn't matter whether you're Japanese or Scottish or Lithuanian, they're all saying the same thing. We love the United States. We love the American people. It's America's biggest sleepover. Um, and except for the politicians, we all get along fine. So there's the Finlandians doing their rowing, and you've got every nation doing its own thing. The Scots drank Boston dry, and not one fight, but there were lots of traffic cones on every statue because that's just the way they roll. So the message coming out of the US, building up to the birthday, is just superb. This is part of the warfare, by the way. This isn't just a happy coincidence, okay? Because wars are fought according to principles. We have 10, I think you've got about the same, and they're roughly the same depending on nationality. But the last one was always maintenance of morale. And as Napoleon said, morale is to material as 3 is to 1. So if your people are in good spirits, they can take the hits. They can do what's got to be done. And that's exactly what this is. This is a massive morale boosting time. So the entire build up with the World Cup has been critical, absolutely critical. The morale, the messaging is superb. Everybody's on an absolute high. The world loves America. America loves the world. And apparently there's nothing greater on the planet than Texas barbecue. And having watched the videos, I want to get to Texas and try that out as well. So Derek, we'll have to make a booking and go down there together and tuck in. So this is all preparatory, preliminary operations for the 4th of July. Come 4th of July, it will be, without a doubt, a problem-free. It'll be the greatest party the world has ever seen. Now, why is that critical? A, because in and of itself, the anniversary is worthy of recognition. But this is to raise everybody up, to raise their morale to a point where they are ready to take the hits. They believe in themselves. They believe in the country. The world believes in itself. The world believes in the US. So this is a bonding moment, physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually, of the people of the world to get behind the US. So if you wanted an event to galvanize the planet, to cohere people from different nations behind this event, this is it, this build-up. Now, 4th of July itself, huge party. And somebody with a sense of humor was scheduling the games. The United States is playing England in Philadelphia on the 4th of July. Man, this is, you can see the choreography of this. It is just superb. So once again, it's all designed to boost everyone in a very real sense. It's not just inflation of egos. It's a deep connection to the past, and with deep respect for the past. And everything that has been done, the blood and treasure that had been spilt by the American founding fathers and all those that followed. There's much to respect, there's much to protect, there's much to strengthen now. And that's what it is. The people will be imbued with this energy, so let's get the fight. Now, why is this necessary? Because from 4 July to the midterms, there's some pain to go through, some real pain. And that pain is not just political, it's not just economic. This is actually going to hit hard at every possible level. Now, some people live, the 6 inches in front of the face because that's what they've got to do. How can I make rent? I've got to feed the children. And we've got some friends, 5 kids, horses. They've got to get out of their place and find somewhere to live because they just have to. So they've got immediate problems, and that's their focus. And other people's focus is much bigger. And so all of these people are going to go through pain. We know that. And it's going to be difficult. And we can talk about it later. But that pain, as I said, isn't just the obvious stuff. And we might talk about this towards the end of the show. But the participants in this whole war, we know that there's the bad guys, the black hats. We know that there's the cabal, there's the deep state. We know that some of us know that there are angelic entities involved. We know that there are extraterrestrials involved. And, let's get honest about this. This is a complex war beyond everyone's capacity to absorb. And so the pain that's coming needs to be, I guess, blunted by this immense event, the 250th anniversary of the birthday party, and this global joy, deep joy behind it. So as the people move between there and the midterms, and as I've said, the midterms might not even occur because things will happen. Martial law needs to be formally declared. We know we're already under it, but in a more practical sense globally, and people have to willingly accept that as the only possible solution. And so that's what I see what's happening. A big party. Enjoy yourselves, folks. Have a great, great, great time. Don't give yourself too big of a hangover, because we have to gird our loins for what's coming in the next short period.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox sent me an article, I guess you'd call it, about breaking down what took place at UFC 250. And Rick, you and I covered that, Ricardo, on Bosi Briefs. I did a special broadcast with Tom Lennox and Rob Cunningham, Will Barney, and Christy Allen of JMC Broadcasting, and we broke it down there. Incredible panel. I can see us doing the same thing post July 4th celebrations and reading into some of what's perhaps being presented to us that may not be so obvious to the average person. And we look forward to doing that. But well said, Ricardo. It's going to be an incredible July 4th period. Same question to the panel. Tom Lennox, sir.
I was thinking about that while Ricardo was speaking. The big thing that I've observed amongst the players in the World Cup is the spirituality they're demonstrating. It's amazing to watch, and it doesn't matter what background they come from. Today I saw a group of Muslims praying at the end of their game. I've seen men pointing up to the sky and talking about, they don't say a word, they just point up there after they score. That spirituality is really important. Very, very important. Because what we're moving into is a spiritual financial system. The quantitative financial system, it's going to measure your vibration and frequency in order for you to use your account. It's not about eyes and fingerprints and all that stuff, voice. It's about your frequency and spirituality. So when we see spirituality on that soccer field, we're seeing huge, huge changes. I personally don't think that there will be a midterm election, because the day Nasara is announced, 120 days later, there has to be a new election of the president, the vice president, all of the Congress and the Senate. That's part of that law. Now, what's been modified in it, I'm not sure. But the original law, that's what it said. The other thing I see is a very difficult time for the courts. The courts going from maritime law to the law of the land, and people are going to hear about it. They may not hear about it on July 4th, but they'll hear about it pretty quick, because the lawyers, they've signed an oath to Britain, the British Accreditation Registry, the bar. Well, now they're going to have to sign an oath to the Constitution of the United States, and they're going to have to be retrained into common law and the law of the land. That's going to be for the judges and the lawyers and the people who use the judges and the lawyers to get ahead. So I see that as a major, major issue. The other things I see is Canada, at least Alberta, has already had a petition signed by enough people, so they have to have a vote on whether the Alberta will become part of the United States. Alberta has the most natural resources of anybody in any other province in Canada, because they control all the oil that comes out of Canada. That's a very interesting thing that I see happening over the next several months. And then I always go back to spirituality. People's spiritual relationship is going to be critical as we move forward. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Well, fascinating. We've discussed on other broadcasts the QFS and as it relates to strengthening the moral fiber of our corrupt human race due to the mechanics of it, which you just spoke about. That's fascinating. And also, quick follow-up, the judges and lawyers all need to be retrained. Did you hear that to our audience? I mean, the bar, the British accredited, whatever it stands for, I forget now, the Bar Association, they took an oath, these judges and lawyers, to Britain. And now they have to take an oath to the Constitution and be retrained. That's some great change taking place to get this country, this constitutional republic restored. There's so many things that are taking place, and that's going to be fascinating to see and so much needed because we can't get any justice in them because they're serving another agenda. Anyway, thank you, sir. Michael Jaco, you care to weigh in on this?
Yeah, as my two previous esteemed gentlemen said, I don't believe the election's going to happen as well. There's too many things that are against it. We're down to the wire, and they haven't passed the SAVE Act, and a lot of senators are saying they don't see it getting passed. So probably not going to happen. Now we see with the justices as well. Today and yesterday. Or the day before, we saw Justice Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts both, siding with the leftist against America constitutionally, upholding a 5-day mail-in ballot, which is destroying our election system, and also for the 14th Amendment, allowing people to come into America from other countries, have a child, and that child now is an American citizen. That was basically designed for slaves after the Civil War so that they could, once they're born here in America, they would become American citizens. I probably should just do away with the 14th Amendment because it's being, used and we're being abused through it. And so a lot of the things that, the justices are doing, have supported Trump. So I appreciate that. But we go all the way back to election, 2020 election. And they were going against us back then as well. So it looks like we're compromised, like we talked about with the British accredited registry, our lawyers and so forth, and the judges as well, are all compromised. And they're going to have to be replaced. They're going to have to take new oaths, like you were talking about, John, and replace that system, which is extremely corrupt. Now, other things that are very interesting. As far as the economic system, we may see a gold and silver standard come back on July 4th. Because if you look at the U.S. Mint, they have a Liberty Bell silver $50 or half, 50 cent piece, but it's shaped in the Liberty Bell, not the normal round. And the same thing with gold. They have a half and they have a full ounce. Now, the prices on these are quite substantially more than the current, price for an ounce of silver or gold. For a $50 silver Liberty Bell, it's $750 starting on July 16th. And for the 1 ounce Liberty gold dollar, it is almost $20,000, 19,000, almost 19,800, I think it is. So that's very suspect because you look at the normal, rounds and so forth for 2026. They're only maybe a couple $100 more than the actual, spot price. That's normal, 150 whatever dollars more. But that's substantially more. Now, if we look at the prices for silver on the futures, there are people that are buying futures contracts in December for $20,000 for gold as well. So somebody is in the know of something coming, because those are substantial numbers that are far and above, what the normal price of, gold and silver are. So I think we've talked about the economic system being, changed so that it reflects, the values of the American people. I think that we have a lot of gold, we have a lot of silver, and once we see this, who knows, maybe it's 4th of July where it comes out. So other than that, I think it's just going to be a great celebration. My opinion, I think we're going to we're going to beat the Brits for in the FIFA. So that'll be a fun show. So who knows? Maybe the Brits win this time, but I don't think so.
Well, thank you. Just for clarification, and I realize it's speculation. We don't know exactly what's going to happen concerning the currency and the gold and silver that you talked about. Did you say that you're possibly have a gold and silver price reset as part of the July 4th, or did you say the new, let's say, Treasury-backed currency gets released during this period of time? Which one were you relating to, or both, possibly?
Both, yeah, both possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know what the bigger plan is, but it's got to be something along those lines for for them to several days, a week so later, coming out with these extraordinarily high prices for the Liberty Bell coins.
Yes. Yeah, we discussed this on a financial show I have, and it's fascinating. It's been floated from the administration that they may reset the price of gold to 20,000 an ounce. So that lines up. The Federal Reserve has it marked at $44, $42 on their books for decades. And there's been talk about, I don't know if they've changed it, but the talk about setting a floor price for silver because it's a strategic metal and mineral now. So yeah, this is great stuff. Look, I sure hope it happens on the 4th of July. That would be better than any fireworks. But if it doesn't, folks, it's going to happen. I don't mind saying that right here and now. It is going to happen at some point in time. So let's just wait and see it play out. Thank you, Michael. Derek Johnson, I've been patiently waiting and listening to our esteemed guest. What's your view of July 4th events, and what do you see as some of the key areas of focus from July 5th forward this year?
Well, July 4th, I think it could be one of those things like President Trump for the target audience out there. It's a two-part thing always going on. It's what we know and then what they got to see. And it's like the 4th of July a few years back, where he had a massive display of arms, and the liberals were already screaming and whining, complaining. Then just something like the gold eagle that was a gift recently. It's on the front of the President Trump put up on his True Social. They got liberals stirred up with that, and they're saying it's un-American and all these things. I'm like, the eagle is un-American, really? A golden eagle. Someone said it had 11 stars on it, which represents the Confederate States. I mean, they try to twist it any way possible. But, President Trump just put up a post the other day. He said he had 65% approval. Now, that's key right there is what we were talking about 3 or 4 months back. I can't remember what panel we were on, but we were talking about where we thought it'd be 70-30 or 80-20, somewhere in there. If President Trump's numbers, which they will, this is all for other people, but the numbers will get there. But when the numbers reach around 70-30, 75-25, 80-20, somewhere in there, that's enough to be able to go full-fledged on the people. Because there's always going to be that portion that just won't get it, don't want to get it. They're lazy, they're stubborn, whatever it may be. So those are massive numbers. I'm explaining that to all my friends and family. I'm like, years past, even though those presidents were in a different system, and President Trump is the 45-47, which is on purpose. It's all strategic. But let's just use those numbers because you have to with a target audience. 51% in a president's last 2 years of a first or a second term was a big number. 51% approval. So President Trump's putting up 65%. That number hops up to 80. The 80-20 rule is normally a protocol in business that you can safely go by. That would be a big number. And that's when you can start, just pouring out whatever you want to pour on the people. And then like gold and silver, that's Texas was the first state to go to that. Speaking of Texas barbecue, Texas was the first to issue the gold standard again. So we know what's happening because Texas is a leader. Texas is a state people forget was a republic before it joined the union. It's always threatened to secede from the union. And their GDP alone would just about destroy the United States of America, just economy wise, because of their gross domestic product. So, see, Texas has a big foothold in that for certain reasons. And then you get into like the election talk, the executive order 13848 with a national emergency. That one executive order alone with a national emergency, that one alone proves the military occupation, military government, continuity government, puppet government, because why would quote unquote Joe? I tell people all the time, if Joe Biden was president, he'd have had the same authority and power as every other president. No matter how much you would have disliked or loathed them or hated them or whatever, wouldn't matter. He'd have the same power. So how come 11 executive orders with 11 national emergencies were continued by quote unquote Joe, just to hand right back to President Trump? So it would be like this. It would be saying, okay, we're going to continue all these, which means keep them active, but then we're going to hand them right back to you, President Trump. But by the way, we're going to call you a dictator, a king, and a Nazi. That makes no sense, people. And especially Executive Order 13848 for election interference. That's also the executive order that would have given President Trump the go ahead to federalize the National Guard and reserve components to active duty for these deployments, and we've seen that. So there's a lot of tie-in there. But like Lieutenant Colonel Bosey said, you build the morale up of the people. Every American this weekend, they're going to be on a beach, at a lake, at a party, at a barbecue. They're going to be drinking all kinds of different things. And for the first time ever, there's going to be a bunch of redneck hillbilly bubbas who's never cared about soccer before in their life. But because of this setup and because we're playing the British, right, in Philadelphia, and all our history there's going to be a bunch of rednecks with their beers finally watching soccer for the first time, cheering for it. So that morale is going to be unprecedented. And President Trump's display of arms is going to be unprecedented. And I think it could be something where even some of the ships from other nations come out in our harbors. You just never know. I think that some of this blockade in Iran had a different play. It could be to where all the other militaries are joining in with our military. You just never know, because I think where we're headed is more positive. I don't think that you can have too much doomsday, gloom and doom after the 4th, because this is a big deal for us living. I may get to see 300. I don't know. It just depends. But, 50 years from now, I would be 93 years old. It's a possibility. But I don't think that my legs and my body will work like it will work right now. So, I'm going to take advantage of 250 while I can. So it's a big deal for anyone living right now. So anything past this, moving to November, one day at a time, and trust President Trump. But I mean, it's pretty epic what's been happening. The judges, the courts. Now I know what happened with the birthright citizenship, but there's a lot of other big wins that shows that, hey, the judges are doing what they're supposed to be doing where they're doing it. But where they're not doing things, President Trump said today that Congress can take care of the birthright citizenship. It has nothing to do with the 9 Supreme Court justices. So there's a lot of things that are resetting and getting us back to what the actual government's supposed to look like. And it's educational as well for the people out there. People have to learn this stuff too. It can't just be the few of us talking, and we can't just always be talking. We have to be doing and making it applicable in our lives. So a lot of people are learning. And then the White House and the Department of Education have been dropping all these little excerpts of certain things that's going to be coming. They've been putting up all of our old founders' photos and things. So there's a lot of educational points that are coming to people too. So, getting people ruffled and rattled isn't always a bad thing. It's like President Trump says, it gets them engaged. And even if they're cussing or they're mad, they're still engaged. So I say just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, you bet. Very exciting. Thanks, Derek. And we look forward to celebrating with them redneck hillbillies over a good soccer match. But you're right. It's going to be very exciting. I'm, of course, 10,000 miles away, but I'll be watching the events unfold from my home here. Very, very much so. Look forward to it. We'll go back to the top of the panel with just a quick 40,000 foot view type of an answer question to this question. We've talked about this before, but it's noteworthy to weigh in on it again. Why? Because the awareness and the sentiment concerning Israel and Netanyahu has changed. If you go back a year, 2 years ago, you wouldn't find a whole lot of the narrative that's permeating across the world concerning Israel and Netanyahu. And of course, Q stated, save Israel for last. So two-part question. What's an update on Iran, the actual status of what's going on? Because every day it just seems to change. You know, they signed an agreement, they violated an agreement. You know, the blockade is happening, the blockade is not happening. We're dropping bombs, we're not dropping bombs. What's your analysis of Iran? How much of the Iran operation maybe already took place? And again, we're watching certain scripts. How much is real? What's the status of Iran? And then Netanyahu and Israel, Lieutenant Colonel Bussey.
Thanks, John. Iran at this stage is mainly misdirection. There are so many other things being progressed that Iran's done. It's not a problem. As you say, depending on what time of day it is, you'll get a different story. So from my perspective, I see it as simply as misdirection. You know, look over here because we don't want to look down here. That's that one. In terms of Israel, and just so once again, so we're clear, we're not talking about the average Jaime who's running his down the road. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Israel as a device, as a control device for the planet. And all roads lead back to that device. Everything that we're suffering from, they are the facilitators of powers greater than themselves.